easy.
All right, bossy pants.
I know what you want to start with.
All right.
Oh,
Hey, everybody, we're gone live. Excellent. I got the audio going too, which is awesome. So we got a very dangerous panel happening tonight, as you can tell.
Hello.
We've got Tony. We've got Jay Dean. We've got Kennethan. And we've got sexy Stephanie. Whoa.
nice.
Our
Well, why
hangout
can't it
tonight.
be sexy J. Dean? Come on, man.
All right. Frumpy, and we have Frumpy
Look at
Jay Dean.
these.
Live with it.
Look at the guns.
Oh my God,
Never
it's out of control already.
You're out of ammunition there, buddy.
I'm
Jeez.
just drinking now.
Which is even more scary.
Back for a half hour.
Oh, okay. So this
All
is the pilot show. This is our second one we've done with pilots. It was a lot of fun doing the first one, and we've got some of our regulars. Very, very cool. We got some awesome shows plus a bonus show. JD, I'm just gonna throw it over to you for you to announce what are the rules of the engagement.
The rules of the engagement. Well, we're going to cover 5 shows plus the bonus that you added. It was the late night, the late entry, which will be Gotham. So
Yeah.
I just got a chance to see it. I didn't get a chance to take notes, but we'll hammer through it. It'll be fantastic. But the 5 shows we're going to do is Chasing Shadows, The Cosmopolitans, Hand of God, Walter, and Our Zoo. I've been misquoting that title as The Zoo, but it's
The zoo,
Our
yeah,
Zoo.
I've been saying
That's my
it's the
bad.
zoo as well.
And we are basically got some outline questions that we're going to do on these. So we're going to go through our best scene, our worst or most confusing scene, a plot twist that's good or bad, or if there's any plot twist, the best character development in the series, the best line, and would you watch it? With this one episode that we watch, would you be glued to it? Would you want to be involved in it? Especially when we talk about the Amazon pilots. And then an overall score between 0 and 5. And I exaggerated a bit that there's a 0.0. It's actually a 2.5 because you got to give credit where credit is due.
Oh, well done.
But we'll get to that when we get to that. And where do you want to start, Bob? It's all you, man.
All right, okay. So to start off, I think we'd start off a nice, interesting note with the zoo. And
Our Zoo.
no, sorry.
Our
sorry,
zoo.
sorry.
Our zoo.
Okay, fine. I'm going to change my notes right now. Our zoo. Oh, you pedantic bastards. So, I just wanted to throw in a note that, with the show, they do end up in the first episode in the pilot, they do bid for this house, and they bid £2,500, which in today's money is $264,357. So that's kind of, yeah, so that was, that's still not a bad deal. I mean,
For
in Vancouver.
a giant
no way.
manor. Oh, yeah, that thing would be
with
worth
lands.
like 2.5.
10 acres.
But it was a fixer-upper.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 10 acres of land where it's probably a good 50 million here in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
easy.
Easy. Anyways, so we got off track with our completely awesome real estate deals out here. So anyways, let's start with best scene. And I'm going to throw it under the bus with Tony for the start of the scene. Yeah.
For our scene.
was a tough
Walking into the bank with the monkey on his daughter's shoulder. I like that scene.
Nice.
Everybody's head turned.
Yeah.
I think that was good.
And the monkey sold the deal, really.
He did. The guy said not on sentiment, but when he said to the banker, for people like us, isn't there been enough? I have the quote, and I guess we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Men like us, we've seen enough suffering, haven't we?
Yeah.
And that's what sold the deal.
Nice. And you have a monkey, I think you got it covered. You got me with that line and a monkey. I think that's my line from now on, and a monkey. So it's...
Yeah, and a monkey. Throws in a monkey. All right, JD, you're up next.
Okay, I'm going to give a little bit of background. Our Zoo is a show that's BBC, comes from BBC One out of the UK. It's a 6-part series. They've just, I think, broadcast only up to episode 4 right now in the UK, so we're just getting a shot at looking at the first part of this. And it is based on a true story and a very interesting story about the Chester Zoo. And it's really the perfect kind of television for a Sunday evening. I freaking love this show. I think this is the best kind of new television I've seen in a while. It reminds me of like the Wonderful World of Disney from long ago, the Sunday night movies they would have. Very warm, very friendly, but very serious topics too. So for me, the best is when there's a point in the show where they get the camel, and a kid leans over the fence and says, "I hear you got a monkey." And so they start these little tiny tours of the backyard of the monkey and the parrot and the camel. And the daughter there is taking all the neighborhood kids. They're all lining up and paying a little bit of money. And it's this really crazy scene where his wife comes home and they literally have it out in front of the whole neighborhood. It's quite a powerful scene. And one of my favorite lines, again, I'm going to bleed in through there, is where she says, "What you're doing, it's not normal." And he says, "Well, maybe it is for me." And it's a really beautiful sentiment and a guy who's totally lost his way. And in this scene, captures magic, his daughter's heart, and basically his wife confronts him on his behavior, and he says he commits to the behavior, which is really cool. Nice.
Very, very cool. So, Ken, what do you got for us?
Well, for me, the best scene, the most heartfelt, I think, was when they were at the auction, and Dad is standing there, and he's hearing the bidding going on, and it's gonna go, and then the older dad, the dad's dad, kicks in and says, "You buy it, go for it," and he kicks in the extra money. In defiance of the wife, because Dad just saw it. He just saw something in this that he had to back, and that whole sort of scene was it just did it for me.
It's super powerful because that's the moment where they all commit. They literally commit all their futures together in this one moment that they've been fighting and trying to help him like get off of this crazy track. I think it's a super wonderful moment, especially a father who's like, I don't know if he had a dream of opening a store, but his son has a dream of, opening a zoo. Like, all right, I'm with you. I think it's pretty beautiful. It's a great scene.
Well, there was an interesting point there too that snuck by, and I don't know if anybody else notices, but the guy that was bidding against it, the priest kind of made, or whoever, the guy that's controlling the church in that town, was he bidding for it too? I'm really curious to see what happens.
Was it confusing?
No, it was I thought there was an American there, and he was the one that was doing the bidding.
Now, have you been watching?
But I have a feeling the vicar was behind something too.
Yeah, because the American was there representing a buyer.
Yes.
And it seemed like it was the Reverend that wanted to buy the land through that person, but there's a bit confusing as to what the relationship was between them.
Yes, it was.
I think that confusing is going to be another episode, which I think is really.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. they could turn that into quite a few, where the vicar is trying everything he can to get the town turned against him.
I think that's what's really great about this episode in terms of talking about pilots, is it really makes me want to know what's going to happen next, because they go from affecting the neighborhood around them, bringing these wild animals into this neighborhood and literally destroying their own grocery business, but creating an idea for a zoo, and then going into a whole nother town and basically saying, "Hey, guess what, guys? You thought you had a normal town? Not anymore. Here we are. You're in our menagerie."
All of that combines with, all of a sudden, the town is against him, and then people start coming into town spending money, and wait a minute.
Well, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah,
Hang on. How many shows have you watched? You've watched 3 or 4 shows, haven't you, Ken?
No, I just watched the one.
Really? And you got
I just pulled all these ideas out from what it was.
Wow.
He's writing on the show.
Okay, so that's why he was begging to get it on.
Yes.
All right,
BBC.
Stephanie.
Well, our zoo is by far, out of all of the ones that I watched, and I watched everything, even more than what we've listed here. My favorite. It was my favorite one. And I think one of the #1 scenes for me that really kind of hit it as to why this is going to be really, really cool is BBC comedy is sometimes a little bit obscure for my tastes. And there was the scene in Our Zoo where they talked about moving into this new neighborhood and this new city, this new village, and it's like, don't draw attention because we're not quite ready to set up yet. We don't, let's let us be really, really kind of like underbeat as to what happens, and this is like the dad telling everyone we're gonna move in, but we're gonna do it kind of sly.
Yeah.
The very next scene, they juxtaposition it beside moving the camel in. Now, how can someone ever get into
that was very funny.
It's without this massive camel in the big back of a truck? So I'm thinking there's going to be a lot more of these kind of subtle comedy in there. And I love it.
Subtle late night animal movings into the neighborhood.
Right.
I can't wait till the elephant shows up. That's going to be awesome.
It's the naivety of it all. It's like, we can sneak in. Yeah,
and
sure
the one thing
I'm wondering how.
Sorry, go ahead, Ed.
Oh, I was just wondering how the concept of the open zoo is going to work out because
That's
the monkeys
exactly
already
what I was
got
going to ask. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, this was is this the beginning of how the open zoo sort of happened? And this guy didn't want to pen up all the animals. He just wanted to, leave it all open so people could see what was going on.
Well, I was wondering about that too, and I don't think he means open zoo, meaning they're all going to run and after each other like a safari. I think it's just like our common zoos these days. They're not caged animals. We can see them.
Yeah, it's the introduction of the modern zoo for sure. I mean, one of the best zoos in North America is in Seattle. If you've never been to the zoo in Seattle, it's amazing. And really what it is you're walking on trails and stuff, and then you come upon an exhibit, and the only difference between the terrain and where the animals are is this wall, and they're living in a very similar environment that you're walking through. So it's completely different than the classic zoo where you're in, like Ueno Zoo in Tokyo, massive zoo, but it's like concrete and confectionaries and stuff like that, and then there's all these wrought iron gates, and then over there is the animal containment area, and it's kind of a sad zoo, but that's what a classic zoo is we're going to put these animals in, but it has nothing about integration, has nothing about the human experience of walking into it and experiencing the trekking around. So yeah, the Seattle Zoo is awesome for that, and well worth checking out.
It says here on the Wikipedia that he was influenced by a guy named Carl Hagenbeck, who has been the inventor of the modern zoo. So it was less bars, less cages, more open areas, more free air interaction. He came up with the idea of moats in order to keep safety and separation between the people as an alternative to cage bars, and also he also this is Hagenbeck, which he designed on. They also did houses, so like reptile houses and chimpanzee houses where you would have these mix of animals and things like that. So really, really fascinating that he was basically a pioneer and not just throwing a zoo in a village, but the idea of what he wanted to present was something that was freeing as opposed to being imprisoning the animals. And I think that's really fantastically represented in the show in terms of what he's going through as an individual, going through PTSD and feeling trapped. And so this becomes his outlet of literally solving that emotional problem of his own. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, a very specific form of PTSD that he had as well, because they did let out that he had screws in his spine to keep him straight. So he had a very specific injury that he was dealing with that was different than what others had dealt with.
Okay. All right. So, it's my turn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Best
so
scene.
let me just go to my notes here. Okay. And for me, one of the best scenes is when they all sat around the dinner table to make the final decision to. Okay, let's commit as a family, because you've got the anti-hero, which is the mother of the guy that's pushing for it that says that this problem, he wants to build a zoo, and you got the father. It's like he's trying his bitchy wife. He doesn't want to talk to her too much. He says, I just better shut up and nothing. I don't want to deal with it. And him stepping forward and say, you know what? I have an opinion too, honey. And she says, what? You're not going to vote on my thing? What's going on here?
Yeah.
There's this, and the big vote at the table. And what's interesting is everybody voted yes except for the mother. And they still went ahead with it. So I think that's really interesting. And then she's being pulled along, saying, this is crazy. We don't want to do this. Just get a normal job. So I can relax. Her whole motivation is totally selfish. I mean, I get it that I get a son and he's went to the war and I lost my son and that's terrible. But really, her whole motivation is really, really horrible, and I have a hard time relating to her. So she's a great anti-hero in the movie, in the series. But I feel that she's being painted this way because in the future, in the series, she's going to come out and do something amazing, and that's really going to strike hard.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but if she does that, they're going to have to pull another antagonist out, which is probably the vicar.
The vicar, exactly.
They go fish out of water really quickly. So I think that's the other thing that's great is this is almost like a pre-chapter to the real story. It's like, okay, now we got all these animals in a place. Now what? So it's a very good pilot and very good first episode. Complete arcs in terms of where people are going to go to. And I agree with you that the mother is going to be like such a stickler and a stick in the mud moving forward, and she's probably going to be very transformative. But I think she does a great job in spite of it all. It's somebody who doesn't have control of their it's like misspent anger and lost joy, and she needs to blame somebody because she's so selfish. So she'll blame everybody instead of taking responsibility. So it's interesting, especially when you create heroes in your family. Heroes go off to war. That's what they do. And guess what happens when they go to war? They die because they're good at what they do and they fight. So that's what happens.
He had an amazing statement when he goes back to the boys in the reunion for his troops, and the reverend's there, and he basically shuts the guy down and says, look at this. It's luck, guys. It's nothing to do with God. It's like you die or you don't die. It's nothing to do with that. And he gets very, very angry about it. And I think that's a nice seed for the animosity that's going to happen between those two characters.
Yeah, I think that was what I was referring to earlier in terms of the type of injury. He had to, through sheer force of will, make himself recover. I think that was really what was being painted there in that scene at the reunion.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to move quickly and slowly and painfully forward because we're almost 20 minutes in on the first question. So
come on, speed it up, will you?
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to go to the worst or the most confusing scene, and I'm going to jump in and say it's the scene where they said she spent all the money. They're in bed, and she's, look, we've spent all the money, and we can survive until the fall. Well, if they've spent all the money, where are they getting the money? Because they overspent the money. So is the father going to be coughing up even more money to support it? So I'm very curious. I didn't quite connect on that scene.
I suspect there was a budget. She said, I've done all the sums, and we'll be okay until this period. So we spent all the money, in my mind, implied that the money that they had for this particular period.
Maybe, but they overspent in the bidding. They overspent by quite a lot. I mean, she said, you can only spend this much, and then they spent quite a bit more. And
Grandpa kicks in, but and I think I was. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Ken.
Well, no, I was just wondering. I was just going to give my most confusing, but I'm out of turn. So
go. No, you go.
Okay.
I don't have one. I didn't find anything confusing in the episode at all. And I think she's basically a person who plans ahead. So what she's saying is, to get us to this period, all our money is spent. So we have to make money in this period. So
if
what
we don't buy any more animals,
already counting that money as spent, even though they haven't spent it yet.
Yeah.
Well, the grandfather, the father of the guy, did he actually sell the store?
Yes.
To get the money?
Because the
I don't
mother
know.
said,
It
"I
was-
will never forgive
they
you."
never
Yes,
said
the
it said
wife.
that, though.
The wife said, "I will never forgive you for giving up our dream."
Yep.
Right, but we haven't seen him go through the selling of the store yet. I
No.
mean, obviously he's going to
But
have
they've
to.
already. But
They packed up their stuff. They packed.
but they
up their
packed
stuff
everything
and
up.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
the implication
That
is
was-
they did for the additional $500 that they needed in order to buy the
So
property.
maybe so maybe they're missing a scene. Maybe they ended up.
Yeah, but he moved out. They moved out of the house. But
Yeah.
Well, I think the line says it all.
Yeah.
Which?
The
All right.
line that she says, I'll never
never
forgive
forgive
you for selling our dream. Like,
Yeah. Except they've been dreaming it for what, 40 years?
Well,
Yeah.
he said too that this was his own dream, and his
Yeah.
dream is different than his son's.
Yeah.
So that was also implying, like at
Yeah,
first
that's
they
true,
were
too.
they were setting up the son to take over the business,
Yeah.
but his dream
And the
was
son
different.
wasn't going to do that.
Yes,
Well, they couldn't do it.
No.
I mean, he was incapable of.
just wasn't. yeah.
Okay,
hey,
so
Steph,
go ahead.
what's your worst or most confusing scene?
I didn't think anything in this was confusing. I was good.
Wow. Okay. Well, it does happen. I did struggle myself trying to find one, but for me, it was that one thing with.
I
with,
didn't actually write anything down, but I remembered when Jadine was talking, or when Tony was talking, that about that, and that was confusing to me, but I didn't actually write anything down.
All right. Cool.
And Tony, did you have anything there?
The only thing I found confusing was the relationship between the person who, at the auction who was bidding for it, the American, and the Reverend. Like there are layers to that relationship and who that Reverend is.
That's another thing. They're teasing a couple of different relationships that, again, in terms of developing a pilot or developing a first episode, I think they do a really good job. There's also the what is she, a princess? What is she again?
Oh, yes.
Oh, ladies, no one's there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
The lady.
they do Lady Catherine Longmore. They do this great job. She shows up in literally 2 scenes, and you're very excited to see her. She's got some great energy, and it's like, she's going to be the one that's going to be doing the fight behind the scenes, the one who's going to be there for them when they need it. And they do a great lead-in on that. They do a great lead-in what you're talking about, Tony, where there's this shifty thing with the vicar. Who is the American bidder? What's going on there? So I love the threads. They do a great job of adding these threads and also implying the dramas. It's really great that way.
Yeah.
So everybody else thought the vicar was a smarmy son of a.
Well, I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say.
I think
Are you kidding?
Yeah, no.
Sorry,
He's
Seth,
a
what was that?
smarmy.
I was just gonna say that I think he's gonna be a good guy. Actually, I don't think we have I don't have a personality of him yet, but I think if there's gonna be something that surprises us, it's because I think he's going to support the zoo and so get the community on board. That's what I think.
Ooh, okay.
my-
That might be, but
I agree.
but
I
I
think
still
he's
think
the
he's- no, I think he's a
gatekeeper. I think the vicar is kind of like the unofficial mayor. He's the spiritual mayor of the town. So it has to get past him. So until he approves of it, nobody's going to be, because it's, when you get into small villages, the church is still the rule.
That's true. At that time especially.
At that time, after a war, everybody looks to that kind of guidance.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing with the luck thing. That's the most frustrating thing about him, is that people somehow think it's because somebody's skilled or somebody's better when it comes to war. It's luck, and it has nothing to do with God. So let's not play that. And these are some amazing themes for what is ostensibly a family-oriented kind of series. I think they've done a very good job of creating drama, not melodrama, and telling a great story about a family after a war, and not having it be like crazy and dumb, and it's just so well done. It's so smooth and warm and interesting, and all the characters are kind of delightful, even if you don't like them.
And that would kind of move us into the best character development, would
Yeah.
you?
I think
Oh well, I would say it's going to move
Good
us into plot twist, but
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
yeah. So let's do
Any
a plot.
twists?
Was there a plot? Is there a plot twist in there, or is it buried?
I don't really think. I think it's the threads that we were just talking about.
Okay.
It's the what's going to happen when they get there, and who's going to be on their side, and how I think. In terms of plot, what angers me the most is this guy isn't well, and he's bringing his whole family along for this journey. And as magical as that might seem, it is disturbing that he is sacrificing his family's balance and standard of life and living in order to pursue this dream. He's kind of kicking and screaming them, so he's a bit of a jerk. So in terms of a plot, it's like, well, what's going to happen next? So I like that.
The twist, if I thought if there was a twist of any kind, for me it just turned the whole story around. Is when the guy was going to kill the camel, and he bought it. I'm like, wait a minute! I didn't expect him to actually buy it.
Yeah,
buy the camel, and that just kind of went. Well, so excuse me, what?
Yeah.
Well, what I loved about that scene.
You can hide a parrot, but you can't hide a camel.
Exactly.
Or even a monkey, but no, a camel? Oh, no.
Well, what I loved about that scene was that his younger daughter that's with him idolizes him. It's like, wow, this is what I want to do when I'm a kid. Because that's what kids do. They do impulse, they make an impulse decision, and they go with it. And, well, so what if I get in trouble? This is awesome. I'm going to do it now. And what happens in 10 minutes or an hour? Who cares? So it's almost these childlike decisions that he's making. And that's all part of him struggling.
Yeah.
Anybody else on plot twists?
Okay. Well, I've got Gil is actually in his hotel room enjoying himself, and
excuse me. Can we actually say that on the?
Yeah. Please don't go to camera. Don't cut to camera.
Basically, Gil says, please don't blame God for what He's done to us. That was his. That he threw that one in. So thank you, Gil. He threw in a couple other stuff. But we'll get to that in a second. But does anybody have any other comments on the twist before we get into character development?
Oh, let's go characters.
All right, character development, man. Here we go. So which character do you think developed the most? And we'll throw that right to Stephanie at the beginning.
Okay. It's so early on, and we're seeing little bits and pieces of all of them kind of develop. But if you had to say one for this episode, it's got to be the daughter that realized that her love of her life boyfriend isn't going to be there for her at all. And she's had to make this huge transition from being, I know everything, to I know nothing.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, she's really interesting too, because she's, I think, the most grounded in the reality of it. She's in the counter-dependent stage of her life, so she thinks everybody's crazy except for the boy, and then when she gets rejected, it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I think her character is fantastic. I also think the mother, Lizzie, is amazing in terms of character development. I think one of the hardest things any character has to do is to realize how sick her husband is, but how much she still loves him, and how she's going to back him, and not just back him, but she's essentially going to be the one who makes this business work. She's his partner in this. And so when we see that last scene, not only is she backing the man she married, who is a different person who came back from the war and what he's been through, but now I'm the accountant, I'm in this business with you, I'm your partner. And I think that is phenomenal, especially the way she
fully realizes. She fully realizes that too.
Yeah. That if this is going to happen, I have to be on board, and I've got to take control, as much control as you have. It's pretty phenomenal.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Love it. Who's up? That was a bit of a free-for-all as far as an answer. So
I would just say for character development, I really like the way the PTSD father, the younger father. I really like the way they brought him around very slowly. I mean, the way they wrote him, I thought was really, really good. I mean, they brought him around to you realizing things very slowly and in a very natural way. I really like the way they did that.
Yeah.
And you know what? And what I love about that guy, I've seen it in many characters, but basically plays very similar type of characters. And every time I've seen him, when he's played a similar role where he's kind of in the background, and then is strong, and then he goes back to the background. I think that's perfect for him. So, and I'm going to see that. I think we're going to see that throughout the series, where he'll be mellow, and then he'll come out strong, and come back. He's one of these background characters. Every now and again, it's just going to spike out into the foreground.
Right.
Okay. Any other characters that jumped out for anybody else?
Tony?
Other characters that jumped out?
Well, I mean, as far as character development, stuff like
Well,
that.
everybody had a bit of development. I mean, I was going to go with George fighting for the camel's life because that's really what the series hinges on, is the main character changing. But you were kind of expecting that development. But everyone else changed around him. His wife, his father changed. So they all went through some process of change, except for perhaps the mother, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say for me is for me it was George, obviously, because here he is, he's suffering, he can't explain to his mother who he's desperately trying to make happy about his decisions, about what he's going through, and him deciding, you know what, this is what I want to do. Responsibility or no responsibility, this is how I'm going to deal with my PTSD or whatever he has. This is and this is the vision that's going to drive me forward and make me whole again, or at least make me feel like I'm a human being again and I'm connected with this society, even though still he's outside of the society. And I think that first started when he walks into I don't know. No. It was even before that, when he went and he rescues the monkey and the parrot.
Oh, yeah.
In the what do you call that when you bring a pet to another country? They put it in.
It was in customs.
Well, basically the customs agent
That's right.
guy.
Yes.
And he said, "Oh, I'm going to kill a monkey." He said, "No, you don't get to kill something. Let me save it, even though I have no money." And I thought that was amazing. And then then later on, him going, "Hey, honey," his little daughter saying, "Check out what I did," because he knows her innocence, and as a child, he knows she's protecting him and is on his side, not because she knows that's what he needs, is because it's his daughter, and she hasn't turned to when she's become a teenager and rejects him. She's just this little girl and says, yeah, whatever dad does is cool, and the hell with everything else. This is awesome. So I like that. That was very, very cool.
Yep. So that brings us to best line.
Yes, this should be interesting. All right, so I'm going to give this one to Jay Dean.
For me, I really like, it's when he brings the camel home. It's the camel scene, and the little girl is with him, his little daughter, and she realizes that this is a mistake. Like she understands it is, but she also understands what her father is doing and why he's doing it, because in her mind, it's he's just going to kill the camel. Like it has to be saved. So they get it to the place, and he's there with the camel, and he says, "Your grandmom is going to kill me." And she turns to him and says, "Mom too. What are we going to do?"
Yeah.
And the little kid is like no qualms. You're absolutely right, and Mom is too. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going for it. I'm loving this. This is awesome. Yeah.
It's totally cool.
Cool, Ken.
Actually, I didn't come up with the best line.
All right.
I watched and everything just sort of fascinated me. So I couldn't come up with a single best line.
I did struggle.
The whole thing was good.
The best line. Yeah, there's so much good content there. It's like Stephanie.
Okay, so for me, I'm going back to the little girl again. I have a feeling we're going to hear a lot of really cool lines from her over the course of the next 6 episodes. But just the very fact that from the very first second that I saw this come up on screen, it was that little girl, that monkey, that empty house, and the monologue. She's going about it in her head, and it's like 4 months. I don't know if it was 4 months, but 4 months ago, we didn't even own a cat. And I'm like, wow, I'm there. I want to know more. Tell me more. And I think for me, the best line is the one that drew me into the series, and that was it.
Nice. That's
very,
cool.
very nice.
Nice.
And and that's a very salient point, because really the whole introduction isn't like the adults doing it. It's this little girl being an adult, or pretending to be an adult, or I'm going to write this, and having no idea of how difficult that is and what she's getting involved with, but she does it. And maybe this series is based on the writings of that little girl.
Of the little girl, yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
That's what I got the feeling anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe that's what that scene's
it's
there.
the perfect in, though, in terms of it. I mean, it really is, and she's not going to hold anything back emotionally. So it's really a good point of view.
Yeah, and you got to think the way the story is kind of put together. It's seen through, it's understood through her eyes. Her dad was a hero, and the adults were arguing, and until Grandpa came in and saved the day, and it's almost has that sort of feeling to it.
Yeah, there is a sense of innocence that's conveyed throughout
exactly,
it. When Jamie was talking about the Disney-esque kind of quality that comes through on this, and it really is like the story is being narrated through the eyes of the little girl.
Yeah.
And what's great about it is it gives, like, by doing that, you get away with a little bit more in terms of what's going on with the emotional through line too. Because the PTSD thing, that's a story that people will either do with a heavy hand with violence, or they'll do it as some kind of mental issue, and it's, somebody's crazy. Here they were actually treating it as it unrolls and as it happens, as a guy who really just, survived what he thinks is pure luck, and he's trying to create a real moment in the world, and in his daughter's eyes it's a magical moving forward point, and it really allows us to accept the seriousness of it, because it is so crazy. It's so.
But his mother as well comes out with a line, "Just get better."
Yeah.
Just get better.
Come on.
Yeah.
Click, click.
Like it's an instant change.
Yeah, like stop being gay.
Stop being a jerk and don't be sick anymore.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we've beaten that best line to death.
No, I haven't had my chance.
Oh, please, Tony.
Tony, what is it? What is
it?
This one is good. There's a lot of good lines, but I have to speak this one. This was when George was being questioned about the money, how they were going to work it out, and I can't remember now. I think it was his wife that was asking him, and his response was, "I find that money is like a flock of migrating birds." It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. It doesn't really address the question. It just hangs it.
Didn't the Countess lady come up with that?
Yeah, he quotes the Countess lady. It's just like
that's where we got that. Oh, I missed that.
There was a little more of an explanation, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, it was two-liner.
As to what it meant.
Yes. You know what? And I can't remember, but gosh, what was? Yeah, you're right. When he talks to her, he meets her for the first time in the back of this place that he's eventually going to buy. She rides up on a horse, and he's chatting with her, and she says, "Oh yeah, I'm a countess, but you know what? I'm broke. I've never had any money in my life. But it doesn't matter. Money is like a flock of birds. If you throw some seeds around, the birds will come." So, and quite ironically, that is very, very true. In business, it is easy to get money if you have a great idea and you have the right type of people to implement the idea. People with money say, "Yeah, okay, I see."
Did I mention that was my best line?
Oh, nicely done. Not. All right. JD has dropped out for a second, but I'm sure he's going to pop back in. And for me, my best line was, "I'm not your average man." And when he's shaking the hand of Lady Catherine Longmore, when he meets her for the second time, or the first time.
First time.
Yeah, the first at the reunion. That's when he meets her for the first time, and she says he has this amazingly quite sophisticated line, like he was on. I mean, he wasn't drunk or anything, but boom, he was on it that night, and I think that's why she's interested in him, because he came up with. He wasn't in awe of her like all the other people that she meets. "Oh, lady, oh." He's like, "Oh, I'm don't worry about me. I'm a cool dude. I'm gonna be doing something cool." So you can kind of see the power of the zoo and his vision. It's very interesting. So let's just jump into would you? This is the last question. It's a very tricky one. Well, not for this particular one, but later on. Would you watch this series based on this as a pilot? Not watching anything, but just watching it and say, "You know what? Yeah, I'd watch the second one." Or are you like, "Well, I have to watch the second one"? So that's the big difference. It's like, "No, I'm not interested. Yeah, I'd watch one, but I'm not so sure." Or, "Oh my God, I have to watch the next. When's the next one coming out?" For those three, what did you think this series was like? So I'll throw that into Tony to get started while Jadine pops back in.
There's something in between 2 and 3. It's like I like the characters. I like the writing. The pacing's good, production values, everything's great. I will want to watch more of this. Am I so hot on it? I'm not sure I'm quite that, but I like it.
All right. So you would, if episode 2 popped in, you would say, you know what? I'll give it a go.
Oh, I will.
Yeah,
I definitely will.
Cool.
I'll watch it.
JD, we're at the would you watch this series question.
Absolutely. I was hooked from the first scene to the last scene. I want to follow this family through this journey. I want to follow these people. They're well written. They're well acted. It's well directed. The editing is good. There's warmth, there's love, and it is a challenging story about trying to put your mind back together when it's fallen apart. And using your heart and your family to do it. I think it's very powerful.
And I just want to jump in here because, you know, this is Jadine at his best promoting a show that he loves, because later on in the show, when Jadine is dripping blood and is shredded, some of these other shows, just remember that statement so you don't think he's an animal. So with that,
he seemed unsure to me.
With that small foreshadowing, I'm going to throw it over to Ken. Ken, what would you think?
Yeah, I'm like Tony. I am intrigued by the show. The characters are really good. The way it plays out. I'd want to watch for sure the first 3 or 4, and then kind of take it from there. If it gets to I've seen this before, or that sort of thing, or then. I'd probably wander away from it. I wouldn't drop it. I'd just sort of wander away from it. But I don't think. I think I'd probably watch quite a few more.
Yeah. Cool. All right. That leaves Big Steffi. What's up?
I think we all know the answer. I'm gonna watch the next one for sure if I can find it out there in the world of the internet. But yeah, I think as long as the formula does what it's promising in the first one. Like, I want to see a whole bunch of chaotic opportunities of, human meets animal, and as long as we don't get too much everyday stuff happening in the same kind of way, then I'm in.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, it could become like a little over dramatic, but yeah, I think they've got a lot of material to play with.
It is BBC though, so I'm not sure they would actually get too far into that sort of thing.
And it's 6 episodes, guys. It's an interesting arc in terms of where they're going for. They haven't really talked about. So they've only aired 4 right now. And it's doing well in the ratings, and I think it definitely has the opportunity to tell a complete story in that time. So, yeah, it'll be totally worth it. Ratings. I'm going to start, and I'm going to say it's a 4.3 out of 5 for me.
Why? Oh, look, he just jumps ahead of the key. What a jerk. All right. I'm just going to jump in here with Gil because he just said I'd give it 2 more episodes to make sure that the writers are not got screwed up with what they've been from them. Did you just pick my interest enough to give it another episode? So yeah, so Gil's basically saying that maybe, but now that he's listened to this show, maybe he'll give it another swing at the bat, as they say.
Oh, nice. So we've done our jobs, Bob. Excellent work.
Another addict is back on it.
Get everybody to watch the show.
Yeah.
So for me, I would definitely watch it. Out of all these series, this is the one to say, yeah, I'm interested in what's happening. There's only one other show that had me like, oh my God, when's the next damn episode out? Because I really got to check it out. But for sure, very, very good. So let's do an overall score. I'm going to start with giving it a 4.2 out of 4.9 or 5. And just remember, people listening, 5 is an impossibility. There's no such thing as a 5. It's never been built. It never will be built. It's perfection. So basically, a 4.2 is a pretty damn good score. With that, I give it to Ken.
I'd give it a 3.8.
Really?
It's not quite over the top with a 4, but it's darn close.
All right, excellent. Okay. Steffi. Oh, hey, what she said.
What is that? To speak the
4.2.
Okay.
4.2. Awesome. It's a bit Olympic style there. Gil jumps in with a 4, a solid 4, he says.
Oh, that's good. Thanks, Gil. That to me, like that's where it lives. It lives in the 4 and to medium 4. It's high. It's a high grade for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Tony, what did you give it?
I gave it a 4.
Nice.
Nice.
So only Ken is a bastard. Okay, totally cool. All right, next show.
Well, I gave a lot of 4s.
All right. Well, look, this is going to be quite interesting now because the second show up for on the chopping block, and I use this term quite vividly because of the discussion that's going to happen in a minute now.
Yeah.
Oh, right. We're going to get it.
The Cosmopolitans.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. All right. Like, poor Cosmopolitans. So, to start this off, I'm not going to start with JD because, the 20-minute rant. So, I'm going to start with Tony.
Oh, yeah.
You for the Cosmopolitan, not an overall score, but like we got to keep it.
I have
What was the best scene?
Okay. Before I answer that question, I want to start it off with just a description. I'll call it a bland and directionless version of Sex in the City, a man with Paris as a backdrop.
Yes.
Best scene.
Very nice.
It was one of the most bland, nondescript pieces of fiction I've ever experienced. There was no plot, no direction, nothing of note that really happened. Even the conflict was just bleh. So I would say none. It was the best scene.
And I think we're going to get a lot of this during the discussion.
Kind of like Mr. Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Seinfeld. Yeah, but you're insulting Seinfeld. All right.
It was about nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, Ken. Well, so there was basically no scene that was of note.
Well, I wrote something, but like Tony, I was truly unimpressed by underwhelmed to a good degree. I mean, there was so much confusion about this, the way it was shot, how it was acted, and why the people were there, and I could go on, but you know what? It's not worth it.
It doesn't even deserve that much attention.
No, it doesn't even deserve criticism.
This should be the fastest review we ever do, Bob. I think if we start at the bottom and do the ratings, then we can make a decision whether we want to talk about it.
Stephanie, what do you have to say?
I would say that the best scene, I actually had a best scene in this one, and you guys are all going to probably agree with me here. So, in the coffee chat time when they meet the girl for the first time, I was expecting to have a few. This is kind of going in a certain direction. They're going to be best friends. Things are going to happen. So that anticipation moment for me was the best scene. Did it fulfill it? Not really.
No.
Didn't pay off.
They screwed that one up. Yeah.
And how did she go from sitting at the other table and sitting down and not knowing anybody to boing, she's at the table?
They invited her over.
Yeah, they basically three-man teamed her the moment she sat down.
Yeah. I have to admit there was one line in that I liked, but we're getting ahead of myself.
We'll get to that. Is there a is there a single how do I say this double negative? Everybody in here is a douchebag. Every last person. Every person.
I found a non-negative way to say it.
There's just every last person in this thing. So best scene. Any scene where nobody talks. Beautiful cinematography. Paris. Okay, that's it. That's if nobody talked, it would be an amazing visual representation of the beauty, the Langley, hanging around a cafe, just the cafe noises, just no identifiable people. It is.
So in between
I would cut this down to 10 minutes, 5 minutes. It would be beautiful. Everybody would love it.
Yeah, well, I would say that the only scene that I really enjoyed was at the beginning where there was music playing and nobody talking and just this woman walking around Paris in these Paris. But that could have been a commercial for Tourism Paris, and not very well shot. So yeah, as far as the best scene, I would say unanimously, nobody really has a best scene. We're struggling to come up with one. So let's just move quickly and painfully on. I'm not. Should we even bother with the worst thing? Because it's all the worst thing.
I just got one. I'll make it
all right, Ken.
All right, Ken.
People should know, Bob. This is like a service.
Yeah, this is the only question. This is the only question that we can answer.
Yes.
Slip that one by, but okay.
When they're at the street cafe and they're talking about Gold Coat Girl, and they're talking about the woman that's standing with her butt to you, and I'm thinking they're talking about the woman that's sitting down facing you, and I can't figure out what the hell are they, and all the dialogue just got completely lost because I'm trying to figure out why is she gold coat, what are they doing, but it was no.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't make any sense at all.
Okay.
Well, it didn't make any sense at all.
No. Okay.
Well, okay. This is
just no. I love it.
Just no. Well, for me, at and this is the very beginning of once again going back to, and which was a relatively long scene where they were hanging out at the coffee shops doing the classic Parisian thing, and when the guy says we're Parisians, my mind was like, I can't believe they got that line in. You know how bad that line is? That's awful. Yeah. That's awful.
Yeah.
And these are expats, and I lived the life of an expat for many, many years, and nobody says shit like that. Like if I'm in Tokyo, it's like, oh, I'm a Tokyoite. What an asshole. I mean, really, what it is, for me, what this show shows is how ignorant North Americans are about the rest of the world.
Yeah.
It's a U.S. representation of, this is what it's like to live in Paris.
Why don't you keep that to U.S.?
I think it's actually a joke. I think this was a joke that the director and writer played upon Amazon. This is an Amazon original. This is one of theirs. We paid for a budget and fly these. We flew all these people to Paris and we shot for a couple of days and everybody had a nice vacation. They said, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be good, guys. We're in Paris. Fuck it. Let's have a good time. And that's what they did. And it sounds like the conversations, they're so stilted. They're so terrible. The worst, most confusing scene, any scene where they talk.
Again, to reiterate it. Yeah.
Any scene where they talk. And the pacing is so painful. It is
there isn't any pacing. It's plotting.
Jesus.
Okay. All right. So I would say for the next several questions, I'm not even going to bother. Best plot twist, none. Best character development, none.
Actually,
I just want to say one thing about character development. The only guy that was even in any way close to being a real person was Fritz, the party guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the only person that had any quality. I mean, when he stood up to the other guys, okay, well, maybe there's something. No, it didn't work. No. Still didn't work.
Yeah.
But he's a scumbag, though. He's a total scumbag. Though.
Oh, completely. But he was the only one that was. I mean, you understood he was a scumbag, but but he still tried to defend his little house.
All right. So let's move on to the next question, which I know everybody's going to be unanimous, but would you watch this series? And basically, I think it's a no all the way through.
Never. It's done.
Well, let's give the scores. Let's give the scores.
Okay, and I'm going to give Gil's jumped in here, and he said, it's not bad, but, so he wasn't very impressed. I don't think he'd be interested in watching it. He likes the idea. He says the idea for the show is actually really good, but they get lost in the plot or the lack of ability to bring a plot. Yeah, no, they get lost in the pilot plot, but basically it's a shambles. It's interesting that we've had a show that it's so bad, and everyone unanimously says, ugh. Yeah. And I remember watching this and saying, I'll put it on the list. I'll throw it out, see what happens. It was bad, but is it that bad? I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I hated it. I don't
No,
hate a
it
lot of
was
things,
terrible.
but you know,
Well,
I don't like Entourage, and these guys are a shitty version of Entourage.
Oh,
They're,
the
they're
only-
terrible.
not
They're,
even
they're
close.
whiny. They're whiny, privileged fucks. And it's bad writing. It's bad pacing. It's
Don't
bad
hold back.
acting.
Don't hold
It's
back.
bad directing. It's bad
Yeah.
editing. It's bad, beautiful people, and I don't care.
In a nice series.
And Paris
I'm
is
sensing your
beautiful,
wavering.
lovely, and
I'm sensing
amazing.
your
I want to go
wavering.
see Paris, and if I run into one of these people, I'm going to kick them in the shin and run away.
Yeah, okay. All right, and steal their espresso. So, let's start with JD. What would you give it as a score?
Okay, so here's my respect line. It has none of the people on the screen to me deserve anything.
Yeah.
The writing and the directing, the cinematography is amazing. The beautiful city of Paris is amazing. So what do I reward the people who had to go shoot this and do the hard work, and all the money that was spent on this? So I said I will just give it a 2. A 2 out of 5. One is for Paris. One is for the people who worked on it, and that's it.
Very generous for a guy that hates the show so much.
Yeah.
Ken.
I'll give a 1 for Paris and a 0.5 for everybody that worked on it.
Ooh.
Because they should have known this was. They should have known
What's
this
going
was
on?
the biggest.
Holy shit!
They
All
should
right.
have known this was the biggest dog they ever made.
Oh, they probably did. Stephanie.
I think I'm way more generous than all of you. If 2.5 is like the midpoint of like passable, I'd say it's like a 2.2.
No, not bad, not bad.
It'll get better.
Well, I gave it a 1.5, and I had to think about it. Is it a 1? Is it a 1.5? It's a tough decision.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, is it a 4? Is it a 4.2?
Yeah.
So, Tony, what did you give it?
I gave it a 2 mostly because it really didn't irritate me. It just didn't really have much of an effect.
All right, cool. Excellent. So,
are we supposed to take away for irritation points? Then it is 0.
That's how I do.
Okay. Let's not be mean.
Oh, we could do a little.
We're clear on how well it irritated you.
Yeah.
This show was designed. This show is designed to get under your skin, particularly.
Yes.
Well,
I
yeah,
would say this is like
it gets a 4.5 for being bad.
or pustering,
Oh, God.
pussy
Okay.
blisters.
All
Somewhere.
right. Settle down. Andrew, we got Andrew McGivens just jumped on board, and he's going to.
Andrew.
Hey. We're gonna jump into Hand of God, and then Andrew's gonna jump in with Gotham because he only got a chance to watch one show, which is Gotham, which is a good show to watch. But we're gonna jump into Hand of God now, and we're gonna start with best scene, and I'm gonna throw that one to Stephanie. What did you think was the best scene in Hand of God?
I'm a huge fan of this actor. Like, I've watched pretty much everything he's ever done in time, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so excited to see him in a non-monster kind of role. So when he was standing in the middle of the fountain, with his arms up, and he's doing this kind of, we don't know if he's crazy or if he is just eccentric or what is this guy, I was really quite impressed. It was just visually one of these signs of this is going to be a very wacky show. So
Wacky. Good call.
All right, cool. Ken.
I was not impressed by this show.
Oh.
Well, that's okay.
And it just
Didn't work for you.
No, it just didn't. I thought the judge was a thug, or they wrote him that way, or he was. And I liked the actor, and I had some hopes for this. I thought it was going to be very derivative, and most. I still think it would be.
Oh, all right, cool. Then for what I'll do, Jadine. Let's throw Jadine in there.
So the actor we're talking about is Ron Perlman.
Yes,
we just
Ron.
saw him in Sons of Anarchy. He did like 5 seasons or 6 seasons of that.
Yes, as the Red Demon.
Yeah, as a wonderful head of a motorcycle club, and we also know him as Hellboy, which is fantastic. He's also Beauty and the Beast back in the day. He's from all over the place. I frickin' love him as he is a presence and a character. And this show is weird, and I kind of like it. It doesn't know what it wants to be. It's kind of a psychological thriller. It's kind of some kind of city drama, kind of like The Wire or something like that. But it's also just bizarre with God influence and murder, and it's dark and it's weird, and I think it's great. It is another pilot for Amazon, and so this is the one episode that they put out. And for me, the best scene is a weird scene. So they have these scenes that are like normal, dramatic stuff going on between this judge guy and his wife, and them dealing with him losing his mind while they deal with their family who is kind of falling apart because his son is in a coma, because he tried to kill himself, because his son's wife got raped, and the rapist made him watch it. It is dark as dark can be. It starts at the lowest level of hell, I guess, and works its way down or up, I'm not sure where. But it's this weird scene where the two religious folks, who are basically like, they are sideshow circus religious tent folk, and they take a check that the judge has given them, and they take it to the bank, and it's them, and it's them hanging out in the bank trying to cash this check, and it is really the weirdest scene in a bank, and it is, you know, highly sexualized and highly strange, and I think it's fantastic. And if it's not that scene, it's the scene where the judge's wife and his best friend, the mayor, are smoking weed while one of them takes a shit.
Yes.
It is the weirdest fucking scene you've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's like there's these scenes that are squeezed into the show where you're like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
weird.
Why is he have what character development does the guy have to have a crap on the toilet? What does that have to do?
And he's just groaning. He's talking. They're talking through a door. You've never actually seen him in the shitter the whole time. It's crazy.
It's pretty nuts. All right, let's jump over to. Is it me? Yeah, I'll throw me in here. I'll throw myself under the bus. I would say it's the court. My best scene was the court scene where the crazy psycho criminal gets basically dismissed because he says he was born again, and he hasn't been violent ever since he's been born again. And I like that because I just say, oh yeah, these guys are going to team up and just make all sorts of havoc. And later on in the show, it's like, oh yeah, I guessed that one right. So for sure, very interesting. But once I must say that later on, I do bring up the crapper scene, because that was just so strange. It's like
just so weird.
It's so rare that you have a toilet scene in a movie. I mean, back in the day, nobody even farted, and this guy is having this earnest conversation, and the end of the scene is, Joe, give me some toilet paper, or I mean, that's the end, and cut. It's like, who wrote that? It's just so borderline. It was almost borderline Parisians there, guys. You know, borderline the Cosmopolitans and stuff like that makes no sense.
It seemed like this whole show was in the editor's hands.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Interesting. Yeah.
Tony, what do you have to say?
This, out of all the shows, was my favorite. First of all, just to throw everybody a curve.
Weird. Like Tony.
Ron Perlman. I love Ron Perlman. He plays such a wide range of characters in all sorts of B flicks, and some things he plays very dramatically well. Sons of Anarchy. We've been talking about some of the scenes in this, and for me, after watching this, since he's an executive producer, I think he's credited. Sounds to me like this is his baby. And as I was watching this, it struck me how much the storytelling is like Sons of Anarchy. There's this very serious edge, but then there are slices of oddity which are humorous. Like the guy in Sons of Anarchy who lost all his fingers because he kept masturbating too much in public, so they cut off his fingers. Is this kind of strangeness that's going on here in this show? And I love it.
Okay. So there might be some talent that's morphing over for sure. I'm going to just jump in here. For Gil. Gil's made a comment that he's met both these people. Kim Coates' wife volunteers with the nonprofit I work for, and I met Kim Coates and Ron Perlman personally. Yeah, and he's an awesome dude, and he is. And he did the City of Lost Children, made him a fan of these guys. And,
great film.
And for him, this show is not a disappointment. So there you go, another great thumbs up. So and Andrew, I don't think you got a chance to watch this, so he's going to be mute and not jump in. So let's just go best to worst and most confusing scene. And for me, I'm going to say it was when the wife is hanging out with the preacher. I mean, it's just weird. She's just like that weird scene, and I was like, what? Why is this scene here? What's going on?
She dug in.
It didn't help the plot at all, I felt. Or maybe I was just had a... It didn't
She found out about the $50,000 that the judge gave him?
Something like that, and then she goes to confront the guy
and found out that he was a soap opera guy, and then who became a con artist, who became something else, but he was something even before.
Exactly. So it's like, what the hell?
She's defending her husband. Her husband had disappeared for 3 days, comes back, he's a loony, speaking in tongues, and there's a great line with regard to that. But she wants to defend her husband, who is built this life of being a fixture in the community, who's suddenly falling apart, and everybody around him is starting to wonder whether or not he's going to keep it together.
Yeah, but also you got to remember, watch the show. He's a corrupt fixture of the community. I mean, he's
it's still the grease that keeps the wheels rolling, right? So he's important in that role.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's.
So I think it's even more selfish. This whole scene is about the wife protecting herself and her angles and her life and all of that kind of stuff. And
She's married up.
Dana Delaney does an amazing job being this woman, again, who's in another position just like our Zoo, where this guy has basically lost his mind. They've had a pretty set life up to here. And it wouldn't surprise me if she knows all about his dalliances with the prostitute either. I really think
I assume she did.
I think this is a House of Cards kind of relationship. Whatever you do, as long as it doesn't fuck up the ship, you can do whatever you want to do. The moment you fuck up the ship, I'm going to come in and I'm going to fix the problem. And that's what she's doing here, is coming in to fix the problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else got a confusing emotion?
I found most of this show confusing. But the Bible study scene, that was everything just seems disjointed, and they just leaped from thing to thing, and if there was any flow there, they've hidden it.
Yes, I so agree with you, Ken. Absolutely. I love Ron Perlman.
Yeah.
Show I'm not that much of a fan of because it's just too complicated. It's too hard to watch.
Yeah.
Because
there's some weird stuff.
Too much complexity to it.
Yeah.
For a first episode, maybe it's one of these things. And Jadine, did you say they've only made one episode?
Yeah, this is a pilot, so if it gets the the votes and the ratings, they'll do a whole 10-episode arc kind of thing. But it's
like
Amazon.
The whole thing is a string of inside jokes, all told.
You know what? Upon second watching, I realized I kind of agree with you both in a little way. It's almost like they needed to tell a bit of the story of who these people were before this thing happened. But for the sake of grabbing people, whether by confusion or by surprise or making it, kind of an intellectual pursuit of trying to figure out what's going on, they decided to place it right where he has the break. Now, we don't know what actually happened with the break. All we know is that he's born again, he speaks in tongues, and he's given $50,000 to this weird sideshow circus, but somehow God is talking to him through his comatose son and pointing out the people who have wronged him in his life. And the hand that, of the judge that holds the gavel releases the criminal, who will be his hand of God and do his killing for him. So there's lots of levels, of course, in this thing.
Every line was jam-packed.
Jadine, thank you for making my point.
Yeah,
exactly.
Every line was packed with meaning. Every line was packed with meaning. Like when they're looking at the video of the judge, and they're all standing around, and one of the officers is going, "Oh, wow, we know someone who can translate tongues." And then the mayor says, "What the fuck? We're not looking for a tongue translator. We want this buried, not shared. Show some respect for your fucking godfather."
Exactly.
They're connecting relationships. is they're connecting relationships. With each line, there's always like something that's leading a connection or implying something else that's going on in this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's
definitely
very
small
densely
town
packed.
mentality.
that the mayor's played by Andre Arroyo from The Wire, and
Yeah.
he does an
Yeah.
amazing job. I think he's super great. This is an interesting cast. It's pretty stacked, man.
Mm.
So, but I hear you. In terms of confusing, I think the whole relationship to the sideshow religious folks is confusing to me. I'm not sure what kind of power they have over him and why he doesn't really question it. Like he's just...
Well, I think he's had a stroke. And something's happened in his mind, and he went through a 3-day acid trip, because that's what can happen when you have a stroke. It's exactly like when you do acid, and he stumbled across these guys, and they said, hey, this is the reality, and it got hardwired into his brain. Well, maybe this is what is it, and he's having these recurring hallucinations. So I want to jump ahead to plot twists, if any. For me, I like the use of blood and water, which he hallucinates in multiple scenes, and there is a very, very funny scene. I'm curious if anybody else brings it up, but for me, I really like that as the plot twist, is this weird blood stuff going on, and then he's the only person that sees it.
I tend to agree with you that there's two scenes where the God is pointing out who this person is that has done this wrong, that has raped his daughter-in-law and forced his son to try and commit suicide. They're very, very dramatic and very kind of crazy and psychedelic in terms of what they're trying to do and what it is. It's very heavy duty, and I kind of like it. I like those scenes too.
I wouldn't call those plot twists, though.
Well,
no, there
are no plot twists.
There is a plot twist. There's a huge plot twist, and it's
all right.
What's
the plot twist? Give me the plot.
The plot twist is,
Yeah, the line. Yeah.
Yeah, the line. Let me. They made me rape her.
Yeah, they made me rape her.
Yeah.
That was the twist. So because up until that point, I thought he was innocent. I thought this whole thing was going to play out as a mistake.
Yeah.
That the judge screwed up, and it's going to come and bite him on the ass. But it turns out he was right.
Yeah.
That was a twist.
I don't know. I mean, I think about throughout this. Sorry for just jumping in on this, but
no, go for it.
I'm starting to understand the episode through all of the conversations today, because
awesome.
When I first saw it, I guess I wasn't really. You really have to pay attention to this one to kind of get it, because I saw lots of little elements that I liked throughout it. But I just get a feeling that it's like a first-time director editing team or something along those lines, where they just forgot the concept of like of subplots and like major plots. And I never understood where the major plot thread is. I couldn't see it.
You know
I didn't get it.
Oh, the major plot there would be getting Benet. That would be the judge falling into his role as the Solomon. I think to me that's what this whole series is about. It's kind of like that one that Kelsey Grammer's doing, where the mayor loses his faculties. I think we're seeing this kind of happening here, that this judge has found himself in this role due to this trauma, but it's him learning to accept it, because when he was with that prostitute, he went ahead and did what he did, and at the end of it, that's when he decided, oh, we're not going to do this anymore. I'm going to respect you, and we're just going to talk. But he is obviously corrupt. He's obviously a powerful figure, but what's even more important is that he inherited his power because he was the son of someone else. So this is like decades worth, generations worth of power that have been built into this infrastructure that he's a part of, right?
Yeah.
So his corruption is probably partly environmental. He was born into this role, given this, and now he's coming to terms with what that means and where does he go from there.
It is pretty biblical in what it is, right? It's that kind of thing. The son of a sinner and the grandson of a sinner, and can he find any kind of, can he be saved? But he's also becoming wrath. That's what's so interesting about this. He's literally becoming. Let's say it again, the hand of God. Like, that's what the whole point of this is. But Steph, I want to talk about what you were talking about, and I think this is a problem with the Amazon pilot thing, and I think that's a little chink in the armor, because if we go back to the last show we talked about the after. The after crammed so much stuff in that first episode, so many symbols, so many philosophical points, so many ideas that you're just like, what the fuck am I hanging on to here? And I think this show does the same thing. It shoves so much stuff into it because it's like trying to grab your mind and saying, you want to see the rest of this. You want to get in on this.
For me, I mean, when it comes to a plot twist, I couldn't find a storyline. So if there was a twist, I'd never have known it.
Very interesting. I'd say I'm going to jump in here with Gil's comment. I think he says it's a very interesting group of characters, and he likes it to. It's very similar to what they do with a BBC series, with bringing that type of stuff. So somewhat like BBC does with their shows. So I thought that was a very interesting comment. That's going to be so many different, and basically saying this could go in so many different ways. There's so much information. So he's basically echoing a lot of the things we're saying. Is like so much stuff goes on, and what maybe they're doing is they're overselling. They're showing too much of their hand, and then what are they going to do in the second and third one? It's very confusing.
It does, and again, this was an hour and 6 minutes, which was the longest one out of all of them.
Okay.
So they really jam-packed that thing. But I think they told a really good end-to-end story. So I didn't, in terms of character development and all kind of have we all talked about twist?
Yeah. So let's go into the character
development-wise. Again, I think it is the mother Crystal and the daughter-in-law Jocelyn. Again, because they are fighting against the tide of somebody who's basically lost his mind and becoming a different person. And one of the most craziest scenes is when they're in the police interrogation room and they're interrogating the police, and they literally force that guy to drop his pants. That is the most weird, disturbing, long, drawn-out scene in this thing. It's like, whoa, what the fuck's... It's really interesting. And the fact that the Dana Delaney is the actor, and the other actor is she plays the daughter. I can't remember her name. I think it's Tal something. I've seen her in some other things, and she's pretty powerful. The whole trying to get control over the idea of her husband, who's basically a vegetable, and they want to farm him for organs, and she's just trying to fight to end this stage, and now the judge wants to open up everything and go after these killers. It's 8 months after everything's happened. So again, the women in this show really hold their own and are super powerful in terms of character and in terms of development, more so than the judge. The judge, we don't know him yet. He doesn't know him yet. So his development is he was a total douchebag, scumbag, and now he's waking up to something, but he's become wrath. So it's like, oh, well.
Still scummy, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay, now you're doing it for God. Good for you. Like, it's those two women are very powerful in this. They do amazing jobs, and they aren't giving a lot of material. They're very strong in their scenes.
All right, cool. Who's up next? Tony?
Character
development?
I guess I'll have to go with I like the guy that plays Benet, and I'm just looking for his name. He's been in a lot of other things. Garrett Dillahunt.
Yeah.
Something about him, he plays a good psycho. In terms of character development, I guess I'm thinking of the line where he says, I've been talking to God, he wants you to be my Benet, and his response is, I can do that.
Yeah.
He's just, oh, okay, sure. You want me to be your instrument of wrath? Sure.
Yeah.
In terms of development, I guess he didn't really actually develop as a character, but this being a pilot, I think there's really not much room for a character to develop, but in the sense of what you're talking about, JD, setting up the characters, how well did they develop these characters for a setup, and I liked how they developed him, and I think possibly partly because he's just good at it. Garrett is just good at that role.
Yeah, he's amazing. And if you guys haven't seen Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, he plays a Terminator and a Terminator that is kind of born as a child kind of a thing. So one is like a straight-ass Terminator that's trying to kill them, and then he gets killed, and then he is kind of reborn with a new mind, and he acts like a child, like a learning computer, and he plays these two roles amazingly strong. It's really fantastic. He does a great job, Dillahunt, and did I say that right, Dillahunt?
Yeah, he's got amazing range too, because he's in that comedy series Raising Hope.
Yes.
He plays like a complete bumbling buffoon, like chewing grass. He's got range. This guy's a really good actor.
Yeah, and I see him being, like, in terms of the way it ends with that line and what's going on, he will become quite a powerful character, and it's interesting because eventually you got to see that he's going to be hunted down by the authorities while he's in the pocket of the judge. So we're going to see something really neat come out of that, and he'll be able to pull it off.
Stephanie?
I mean, I was actually pretty lost through the entire thing. I really need to watch it again because it was all a little bit too twisty and, characters and too many things.
I watched it twice, and I skipped over a lot of stuff in the second one, and now I'm kind of thinking, maybe I should watch it seriously a second time. There's so much, like everybody's been saying, there's so much has been crammed into this. There could have been like a 2-hour pilot would have probably been better, so they could have developed stuff a little more and maybe had a more succinct trail. I'm going to jump in here too for Gil. He thinks this show's about a lot of guilt, but the people that they're so corrupt that they don't know what to do to fix themselves, and they have no clue what to do between right and wrong. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and there's basically is all these characters, and because this judge has been gone crazy, or actually he hasn't gone crazy, he's just jumped to a different track. Everybody's trying to deal with this very strong guy that's been he's the juggernaut. He makes things happen. He's the guy that is driving the city forward, and suddenly he's on a different track, and people say, whoa, hey, hang on, my life is completely screwed now. Like the developer guy, the mayor guy's having a hard time, his wife's having a hard time, criminals don't know what the hell to do with it. I mean, there's it's like this massive derailment. So I think that's a very salient point by Gil. Thank you very much, Gil. So let's jump straight into
best line,
because this should be fun. So best line, what do you think? Steffi, I'll give you the first chance.
I didn't write anything down for them. I really didn't watch it close enough.
Hey,
I think.
No problem.
I didn't write anything either.
Oh, great!
Man.
I wrote lots.
Oh, yes. You guys get. I know you guys. You get one each. Come on, we're almost into 2 hours now. All right, come on. What? Okay. Give me one, JD.
Okay. It's the mayor comes to the house to meet the judge and his wife, and they had a wedding that he didn't attend, and so he shows up and he gets out of the car, and Crystal says, "Sorry, missed Zoe's wedding," and he says, "I'm pretty sure you'll get another shot. That girl's pretty fickle." I just love that. I just love it. And it's so off the hand, and he's like, then how's the judge? And he just flies right into it, because these three are all best friends from like being young. And I just love that idea that he knows his own daughter is like, this one ain't gonna last, don't worry about it. Don't worry about the weddings. There's a lot of that.
I liked a lot of the lines from the mayor. He had some really my favorite lines. Yeah. But the one, I guess I've already used one of them. But the other one is he's talking to the psychoanalyst at the end, or the psychoanalyst is explaining the condition. Of course, he thinks they're real. The hallucinations activate the same perceptual centers of the systems of the brain as reality. Please, just tell me there's a pill. That's all he wanted. Yeah. He just wanted to fix the problem.
Give me the drugs. For me, I liked, because it was used several times, is follow the stream. And for him, it was nice because it kind of underlined this is him. He's floundering. He needs some direction. God, please give me a line. Show me what to do. And he's discovered that. So every time he sees water, every time he sees something spilled, he so focuses on it, it's triggering hallucinations. So I'm very curious if they're going to follow on with this continuation of him using the stream as who's going to get messed up, who's he going to target and vigilante, because basically that's the description. Judge becomes a vigilante. That's the plot description. And then the one thing, it's a little, it's just more of a for Gil, it's an overall concept for all the pilots, is he felt it's a little disturbing that there is no really strong female characters in all these pilots. So what do you think? Because we've seen some great TV recently that's had some amazing writing for women, and they've really had a chance to step out and have some real nice, solid characters. Do you think this new series of pilots, which is, I mean, okay, this is a new question, but what the hell, it's a good question. For all the shows that we think, it's like in general, for all the shows, do you think they're weak as far as female lines and character development?
I think it's a kind of a standard thing that once you have a male lead who is the lead, and then you start creating co-leads, that you do the best with what you got. I think in two or three of these series, the women do an amazing job with having not a lot to work with.
Yeah.
When we get to Walter, she's a great character, but she's not a great character because like half or 3/4 of the show is her going gaga over a guy, and she looks like ridiculous for it. But when she's not doing that, she's a very interesting, intelligent, wonderful character. And you know, just like the two series that we talked about, is the women in here are doing amazing jobs with what they're given. But I think this is the usual standard of you know, writing. You know, I think it's the Bechdel test, where if a woman is in a film and she has something to say, if she's saying it about a man, it fails the test. Like it's a simple test. Can two women in a film have a conversation and not be talking about a man? That's how you tell if they're real characters.
Yeah.
So
right.
it's really interesting. So I think it's a standard of the industry. But I agree with him. There's some amazing shows with some, like Continuum is one of them. I mean, that is a female-led. The female characters in that show are equal, if not greater, than the men in that show.
But he's saying all the pilots that we've been watching, all these shows, there are no major.
No. Yeah, I
there
agree.
aren't any female leads, but there are good characters, strong characters, like the daughter-in-law when she was standing up to the judge, talking about there are things that I remember and some things I will never remember. Get that?
Yeah.
When they pants that guy too.
Yeah. That's in that scene.
She just unloaded.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you know, you're going back to our zoo. I think the little girl, that's a very strong female character, but it's a child character, so that's a different type of character. So I don't think it counts. Stephanie, do you have any comments on that quote before we get into the next question?
I was going through it, and I think I may have to agree with him. So far, out of the pilots that I've watched, I haven't seen anything that's extremely strong. But then again, maybe it's just the selection of pilots. I mean, I've only seen maybe 10.
Oh, so it's my fault, is what you're saying. Bob, you sexist bastard.
You're not picking the right
All right, fine. I can take it. All right. So the next question, would you watch this, and what is the score? I'm going to put those together, and I'm going to jump right over to J. Dean. What do you have to say?
Yeah, I totally want to see it just because of the depth of the drawing that they're doing here, the zaniness and the craziness for sure. And in terms of a rating, it's a 3.9 for me. I think it's definitely entertaining. I'll watch it again. I love Sons of Anarchy. I love The Wire. I think it's got that same kind of edge, that same kind of wrath. It's got a bit of Breaking Bad-ish in there as well, too. So I think it's great.
All right, cool. Tony?
I gave it a 4.2. That was the highest score I gave any of these. There was one scene in here that I didn't like, and I didn't get a chance to talk about it, so I'm not going to talk about it.
All right, fine.
There was one scene. No, the seduction scene at the beginning, that was not convincing to me. Out of the rest of the show, that was the only thing that was the one cringe moment that I had. Otherwise, I enjoyed it. I definitely want to watch this when it comes out.
See if it unfolds. See if it unfolds for sure. Yeah. Stephanie.
Actually, I have it at a 3.1, mostly because I didn't quite understand most of it. But it's interesting. I was just taking a look at IMDb to see what they said about it.
9.1.
That's a crazy score.
No, that's out of control.
What?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
how many people
there's
voted?
only 3 votes, right?
Yes, it was good.
The votes on it are like people either completely hate it or they absolutely love it. They're all over the race. If you look at the
Stephanie, how many people voted? I missed that.
423 votes.
That's a biased quote. Anything under 20,000 doesn't really count on IMDb. So that can be 420. That can be PR could do that. So it's I would say.
I'm waiting for my check.
Yeah, I would say if the series goes forward, I would say in 5 or 6 years it probably drop down to maybe a 7.5. But who knows? But for sure, 9.1. That's totally biased. It will drive people to watch it though. I gave it a maybe. Maybe I'll watch it. Depends on what else I've got on my plate. It didn't hook me. When it ended, it wasn't like I didn't desperately need to see what was going to happen compared to some of the other shows. So I definitely gave it a maybe, and I give it a 3.3. Ken.
No, I wouldn't watch it. Not at all.
Right.
I was hankering for the credits, and I gave it a 2.
All right, there you go. So that's a nice broad spectrum of people. It's interesting,
And which bears out what Stephanie said. I hated or loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of these shows that it's either going to be bigger.
Wait, Bob's in the middle. It's hate it, loved it, bobbed it.
Yeah, Bob, or that weird Bob guy. Jeez. So with this, we're going to move it on, and finally, we're going to get a chance to have Andrew jump in because we're going to be talking about Gotham. I asked him if he's had a chance. He's been so busy with his wonderful kids, and he did put some time together to watch some Gotham. So, hang on. Gil said he liked the read-roll, and he best of all the pilots. So he loved that show. So there you go. Gil, way to jump in there. So you love it, hate it again.
Thanks, Gil.
Yay, all right. So he said he almost had to watch again to get the plot. So yeah, I think it's a very viscous plot. I think you can miss a lot of stuff at the beginning. It's not something you just casually watch. You can't watch it if you're completely messed up, drunk or stoned or whatever, or tired. You can't watch the show. You have to really watch it intensely. And what's weird about it, it doesn't come off as a show that you should be paying that much attention to. So I think maybe that's the problem with it. But for sure, I think I'm going to give it another look and see if I can up my attitude towards it. But anyways, up on the chopping block next is Gotham, and I just have to say at the beginning, Gotham, it's based on a Batman City Gotham, so it is a comic book. So over dramatization and lines like that comments like that don't really count because it's a comic book. So with that put aside, I'm going to jump in here and let's start with Stephanie with best scene.
Best scene with Gotham. I think the key in this entire thing is how I connect to the heroes and the villains and things that I love about it. And that being said, my best scene is the moment that the police officer knocks on the door and opens the door. It's this little girl named Ivy. And I was thinking, how interesting that I know which villain this is, that we're seeing her life before all the things that we know were going to occur to her in her villainess, and she's being placed around all of this vegetation all the time. So it was more that's really cool the way you did that. So for me, that's the best scene, mostly for the visuals, a little bit for the surprise of having this kind of minor villain character up in the first episode.
That whole show was exactly like that. Every character was introduced in the same way. Edward Nygma, don't give me... just guess what this is. Just tell me, Ed. I don't like riddles. The whole show, every character was foreshadowed. And this is what makes this show interesting in the sense that any other kind of narrative, there will be foreshadowing that some character will be introduced, like the vicar in our zoo. He's being introduced and set up for something spectacular down the road, and we don't know it. We can only guess at it. Whereas in this universe, we know that they're going to do something. We know that these characters are going to evolve in a particular direction. Oswald Cobblepot will become the Penguin.
Yeah.
We know that this is going to happen.
And I love how they introduce him as kind of the first villain. I think that's fantastic, and it's so subtle the way they do it too. I love the slow burn of this. I really like the way they've done that. I agree with you, Steph. The best scenes for me in this were all those little character introductions. Same, Tony. I agree.
Yeah.
Like the Riddler, the Penguin. Poison Ivy, Scarecrow.
Catwoman was introduced first.
Catwoman, yeah, she's one of the first ones. It's fantastic.
I mean, she was the first person on screen, basically.
Yep. And she's the one that's basically is the least like character, right? Because she's so young, and we just know her as this sexy. Developed woman type of thing. So yeah, I found that fascinating. They introduce everybody that way. So let's quickly go because we are running so late right now. I'm gonna go to Ken. Best scene.
I didn't make any notes. I didn't know we were doing Gotham, so I didn't make any notes at all.
Excellent.
Okay.
So because we're desperate for time here.
I'll be easy with this one.
Yeah. For JD, what do you have to say?
I already did my best scene. Andrew, what's your best scene?
My best scene is right at the very end.
Whoa, Andrew's coming in hot. Yeah, okay.
Let me see if I can bring that down a bit. How's that?
Yeah, fine.
Okay. Right at the very end when the Penguin climbed out of the water and the guy was sitting there eating, fishing and eating his lunch and he just slit the guy's throat and ate his sandwich. I thought, okay, well, right off the bat, he's a psycho. They're not doing like a Breaking Bad thing and moving him along an arc and turning him into a villain. And earlier in the show when they were roughing up one of the characters who were stealing from, and they said, hey, do you want to try a little, take a beat up on him? And he just grabbed the bat and started wailing on him. So the guy's a psycho right out of the bat. So. I'd say that was the scene that stands out for me, just showing his character how crazy and psycho he is. The other one is when Bruce Wayne was standing on the roof of Wayne Manor, and Detective Gordon drove up and saw him there, and he said, "Well, they asked what were you doing up there," and he said, "I'm trying to conquer fear." So that's just showing that he's already looking for vengeance. He's on his path to become a superhero.
I thought they did an amazing job of really connecting, like soul connecting, Gordon and
Batman?
future Batman. It's amazing that after the murder of his parents and him talking about how he needs to deal with this and how he needs to move forward and how he needs to think that there's still good in the world and that you can go through this and that you'll survive this, and that kind of connection is amazing. And that juxtapositions at the end there where he literally hands him his badge and he gives him his badge back, the permission that it doesn't matter that you failed me, you're a good guy and you will continue. And that relationship, that was super powerful. That was amazing. They did a really good job of creating something pretty cool. My only concern is child Batman through this series. I don't know what kind of story you're going to tell here. I'm really curious about it. It's a limitation.
I think Batman is an important part of the series. The series about Commissioner Gordon becoming Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, this is like Smallville. The no fights, no tides.
But, I mean, Batman will. From what it appears, Batman will never come into this show.
Yeah.
No, it sounds like it, and I think that little girl, Selena Kyle, the Catwoman, is probably going to play an important figure with young Bruce Wayne and convince him that this is the way to think about his life in the future.
Yep.
I see that.
Writing something like this it must be fascinating sitting in the writer's circle deciding what to do and not getting too ahead of yourself or even not getting too concerned about the Batman characters. Like, well, what about? Because Commissioner Gordon is a sub-character in every one of the shows that you've ever watched. It's like Commissioner Gordon, he presses the button because he can't handle the situation.
Well, in the comic universe, Commissioner Gordon has his own series. He's had many series about him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we're talking like a huge and rich history. And for the writers, it's more of a what do we keep and what do we throw out? What works together and what from this massive universe doesn't work together? How can we mesh this? I think that's really where their challenge is.
And can we talk about Ben McKenzie for a minute? The guy did a great job. He does a really good job as Gordon. I really believe him. I really like him. I really am interested in him. Yeah. And from a guy who comes from the OC, which was which was a terrible show in my opinion. Like he has really come into his own, and I like him in this. I mean, comic book or no, I think he is guns blazing in this. He brings it emotionally.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Fish Mooney, that's the girl, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's going to develop into Catman. And Gil wanted to
know. No, she's no one. She's a new character. They created this character. Yeah, this is what I like. No, she's the
little
new
girl
to the universe. Yeah, the little girl.
My bad.
Yeah. No, Fish Mooney is a completely invented character for this show specifically. So I like that because it shows that they're at least introducing some creativity. You know, they needed some bad villain for that time period at a young Bruce Wayne, someone who sets up. Like she's the one who created the Penguin, literally, when she beat his leg, so that he's going to be with a limp. That's what's going to be carried forward.
Oh, okay. So this is it's a first-time character because Gil basically saying he's a comic book fan and he doesn't like when they throw in a new character. Because it probably was done better in the comic books. Okay, I'm going to move plot twist. Who's got a plot twist? We've got a million plot twists in here. I'm going to say when Penguin doesn't get killed. I thought that was nice. We're going to say, well, hang on, how can they kill this guy? And then he doesn't, and he comes back. For me, that was a nice little plot twist, a weak one, if that. Andrew, did you have a good plot twist?
No, I didn't see any plot twists really. No, it was pretty. It went quite straightforward to me. Like it was just an introductory episode. So I don't know. Anybody else have a plot twist?
What do you think, Tony?
I wasn't really surprised by any of the directions the plot went. I mean, there was a twist in the sense that Cobblepot wasn't killed at the end, but we kind of already knew that was going to go that way anyway.
Sure. Yeah.
So
if he
from
knew
that
any of the
perspective,
characters,
yeah, there wasn't really anything in there that. Oh, hold on a second. This is not what I expected.
Yeah. What about you, Tony? I mean, JD.
No, I never saw anything either, and nor did I find anything that was confusing or anything like that. I think it's pretty straightforward in terms of who the bad guys are and what Gordon is up against. For me, if there's any plot twist, it's characterization. I really love how, who's the...
Gordon's partner?
No. Batman's who takes care of Batman. Who takes care of
Pennyworth. Alfred Pennyworth.
Oh yeah, Alfred. He was kind of.
He's kick-ass. He's awesome.
He's gonna figure
full-on cool.
Well, yeah, he's military. MI6, I think, or something at least.
He has that kind of a background. What I'm used to in a lot of it, and maybe I wasn't a big Batman guy. I liked X-Men. I liked Iron Man, and I liked Ghost Rider. So I didn't really read a lot of Batman. So this to me was kind of cool to see how much of a badass he was, and he doesn't take shit. Like I thought the casting was fantastic, and the boldness of it. Like those are the twists that I'm seeing. Is how are they going to play this differently? How are they going to write this differently? How are they going to go forward? And I think they did a really good job in reinventing.
All right. Anybody want last comment before I jump into the next line, which is the best line?
I guess it could be a twist that Catwoman witnessed Bruce Wayne's.
Yeah, that's totally new, right?
Yeah, never seen that before.
Yeah.
All right, best lines. Let's start with Steffi.
So I'm going actually to the Alfred scene. We've spoken about this scene already. It is the one where Bruce is on top of the roof, and it's like, "What are you doing, Bruce?" It's like, "I'm conquering fears, Alfred," and it's like, "Get off the damn roof, Bruce." That was the kind of thing that I thought was really cool. It was like shut him down, bring it back into like what it really is. A kid is on the roof, and you've done this before. Get the hell down. I love it. That was good.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Anybody else got for a great best line? Nope.
The wife. I very much doubt you're out of your depth, or the Barbara, not yet, Gordon. But if you are, I know you know how to swim, right? I thought that was a good line.
I liked
it
it.
harkens back to the Batman movie, like when you fall. The reason for fall is to learn how to get back up again. There was like a nod back to that kind of a line, I thought.
Yep.
In terms of the Batman and seeing Alfred Pennyworth in a different role, there is an animated series called Beware the Batman. Very well written and produced, and it gives you more of that kind of an Alfred Pennyworth.
Nice.
Interesting. JD?
I didn't get a chance to get any lines for this. I really enjoyed the way it was. I even think Jada Pinkett Smith did a fantastic job being this new character, the Fish Mooney, and who is going to be, pretty much ruthless. I love that whole scene where, and if I could quote from it, I would, but where she has the comedian on stage while she's finding out that she's been betrayed by the Penguin, and it's so amazing that she just keeps that guy on there while she, basically goes after him. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Which is, I think that's a big throw out to comedians, because I think a lot of comedians live that experience where they're trying to do their shtick and the manager's also dealing with a bunch of other crap around them. And they're saying, what? For me, I liked it when James and Harvey, they're talking about his attitude, and Harvey basically says, and that's your problem. Like he basically says, oh, I'm not worried about this, and that's your problem. Points. I'm trying to help you here, and you just have no idea. Which is nice, because that also goes towards character developments. Like he's a straight shooting cop. He wants to make things happen, and that's the background that you want to see. Andrew, do you have any favorite lines?
Yeah, it was when Oswald was being confronted for, betraying Fish, and he said, "I would open a vein for you."
Oh yes.
Right.
Nice.
She gives him the knife.
Yeah, she cleans.
Okay.
Goes, "Here you go."
Okay. Let's see it. Hold on a second.
It's awesome.
All right. So then what I want to do is jump quickly into would you watch this series and what's the score? And let's start with JD.
Definitely, I like the brush that they're painting with. I like that I'm going to get to know Harvey Bullock before I hate him. That I'm going to try and like him somehow. Gordon, how he becomes who he becomes, and just the birth of this kind of thing. I think they've done a really good job. I'm a little worried about what they're going to do with a young Batman and a young Catwoman, because I really hope the young actor that they have, David Mazouz, is doing an amazing job. I will say. We don't know about the Catwoman yet. All she had was reaction shots, basically. But I would give it like a 3.9, a 4.
Well, okay.
Can I interject about David Mazouz?
Yeah.
He was in that series that went on for 2 seasons with Kiefer Sutherland called Touch. He played an autistic boy.
Yeah,
Nice. Yeah.
He's quite a talented young actor.
Huh.
Nice.
Okay. Tony.
Score? Oh, yeah, I definitely am going to watch this, and I gave it a 4.
All right, excellent. Andrew, would you watch the series? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm going to watch it, and I also give it a 4.
Oh, he's on a roll. Steffi.
A 4-0, yeah. It didn't draw me in like I'm really, really excited, like a few shows that I've seen in pilots this season. But yeah, I would totally watch it. I have to watch it now. I mean, it looks interesting.
I said it was a tough call. You got to be in a comic book mood, because it is a very comic book style show. It's like when you get into I'm in a sci-fi mood, I want to watch sci-fi. I'm in a drama mood. If I'm in that type of mood, for sure, I'd like it. I give it a 3.5.
Yep.
And Ken, did you
Yeah,
You're
I am gonna watch it. I'm intrigued as to how they're gonna make this, how they're gonna get a series out of it. I mean, with the kid not being Batman, I want to find out. And I give it a 3.94 for sure.
all right.
See, you know what's interesting? Like, compare this to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like,
Oh,
I still
Yeah.
can't get into that
Better.
show. I try. I've tried 2-3 times. It's to me, it's just
Much
so
better.
boring. I don't know what's going on.
I love it.
And I really liked like the Winter Soldier. I think was fantastic. And I think what was the other movie that they just had? Winter Soldier kind of ties it all up, I think, with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But I thought that was an amazing movie, and I think the series is so boring. This is at least interesting to me. I'm intrigued in this. I kind of am challenged by what they're going to do, and they may fail or they may pull it off, but it's definitely worth a look.
I don't think it's going to be about the young Batman. It's going to be about Gordon,
Yeah.
and I believe this season's going to be about the rise of the Penguin
Yeah.
to
Mm.
take over the crime.
Yeah, Penguin coming back and killing off that woman.
At
that's
some
like
point, they're going to
non-existent.
introduce the Joker.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah, well,
Right.
yeah,
That's
because-
the big.
yeah, that's true. Didn't the Penguin and the Joker team up?
Well,
In the comic
depending
series?
which stories, sure.
Yeah.
Then there's also Two-Face, Bane. There's a lot of room for a lot of characters to bring in, like at a young age. So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of room for the writers to play around with. It doesn't need to be about Batman. Batman is only the one somber character that you know is going to figure out the problem and beat up the bad guys and arrest them. But the story really is about everybody else. It always has been.
Okay, let's move to Chasing Shadows, the serial killer show, which I'm very interested in what people have to say. I'm going to start off with Stephanie. What did you think of the best scene for Chasing Shadows?
I think it's pretty obvious to everybody who knows me that I really go for all the visuals. So although I wasn't drawn into Chasing Shadows as a whole, I was drawn into some of the ways that they're putting on this, getting the characters out, the attention to some of the details, like the wall of the detective who thinks kind of logically. The fact that they've got all the pictures and the ways they're kind of set out, but yet if you take a look at his desk, I mean, there's a bit of chaos in and around his desk area. So I just thought that part was really interesting. It's not really a scene, although I gotta say I'm a big Doctor Who fan, so they've got all the Doctor Who actors that have finished their roles.
Yes.
It's nice seeing them again in different roles.
Yeah, it was. I found it really refreshing. Ken, what do you got?
I like this show. I really did. And one of the sort of defining moments for me was when they decided to go out and talk to somebody, and he just jumped in his car and drove away. I said, okay, I'll follow you, I guess, yeah. And without even a thought, it just he got in his car and he started and off he went. And okay, that's what this guy's about. Well, that's a large part of what he's about. He's just focused, mentally or handicapped in some way, but he's focused.
Yeah, absolutely.
Socially inept, definitely.
Socially inept.
Yeah.
In a big way. All right, Jadine. What do you have to
this
say
is
for
a
best scene?
really interesting series. Again, out of the UK, Chasing Shadows is an ITV original, and ITV has really reinvented themselves out of the UK. They do Downton Abbey, they do Mr. Selfridge, they do Broadchurch, so they usually get a lot of actors, and I think it is amazing the strength of actors in here. So we got Reese Shearsmith, who we all talked about on the last pilot show from Inside Number 9. He's not playing a comedic part. He's literally playing a semi-autistic, or what would you call it?
Yeah.
I don't know what the definition is. It's really interesting, and he's socially awkward, but he's super intelligent, which is kind of interesting. And Alex Kingston and Noel Clarke, both from Doctor Who, who are amazing actors. And so for me, the best scene is literally it's the second and third scenes of the show. So besides the cold open, and it's the press conference after they capture this killer. and he doesn't understand how this is a success, and he's dealing with the captain, and this scene is so amazing. He has a conversation with the captain, and he's like, just follow my lead, and he basically tells the truth in a press conference, which you're not supposed to do. And then the meeting right after, where the captain basically says, you're done, you're out of here, see ya. You want to be a smarty pants and think you know all the answers? Fine, you're gone. And it's fantastic. And moving him over to missing persons and really getting back, there's this, what I really like about the show is they're getting back the idea of the serial killer, which has been so sensationalized and so jacked up that it's some amazing wonder, these intelligent killers who are this, and this. I mean, even Hannibal is guilty of making all these people somehow magical in some kind of way, like they're fucking wizards. So it's really neat in this show where he's like, they're not serial killers, they're multiple murderers, and they should not be revered, and they should not be, they should just be tracked down, and they should, be put in jail. Like it's very literal, and I really like that he's very literal in a world where everybody hedges their bets and doesn't really communicate. It's a really interesting show, and
I really like that Alex Kingston is there too.
Yes. Oh yeah. She brings a great heart.
Yeah. And her acting is just that way. I mean, when she was surprised going out to the car, you could see the surprise. I mean, she had the okay.
She's a fantastic actor. You feel everything that she's doing. She's very good at what she does.
Yeah.
Tony, what's your best scene?
I would have to agree with you, JD. To me, this was the quickest setup of all the shows that we've seen. It was like practically right before the introductory music to the show, where he gets reassigned. That was the setup. You knew what was going to happen from that point on.
Yeah, it was well done. For me, I just thought it was hilarious. Almost, it was very comedic. Starting with her, it's basically her trying to deal with him, and just like, okay, and her basically running to keep up with him. For many scenes, it was like 4 or 5 scenes in a row where she's constantly trying, what the hell's going on? And this guy's not reacting like a human being. And where's the car? And then it's like going to the scene and then running into other people that have met him and say, don't worry about it. He's this crazy guy. It's not a personal thing. Oh, okay. My life's, this is my new partner. What's going on? So it was very funny in a very deadpan way. And the other thing I noticed about the show, it's like the BBC treatment of Monk. Like Monk being a comedy and this taking the same thing, except it's a serious drama. And it's the same ADHD type of a guy that can figure out stuff. He's very focused. And Monk's a little on the bumbling side, and this guy is like, he's bumbling, but in a very serious way. So there's nothing funny about him because he's so results driven, and he's a tragic character. And one thing that I am seeing, and I mentioned this to Jadine earlier in the week, that it's fascinating to see so many series with the hero being a damaged hero or a hero that isn't whole. And I think that is a very, very interesting development in writing right now, because I think that is one of the things that have been basically whitewashed over many, many, many heroes over the last 30 years is like there aren't many tragic heroes that it's like that's Greek. That goes right back to Greek drama.
It's like saying as a flawless hero, and that's.
I like the idea of that super intelligence with no filter, and he just doesn't. Why would I not tell the truth? This is the way it is, and I really like that. Appreciate that idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so worst and most confusing scene.
I didn't have one. I pretty much got it all, and I'm intrigued. I think they put enough threads in there to look forward to some things. So nothing.
Yeah. For me, I felt a confusing scene, which was a clever confusing scene, because like, what is when that girl goes into the abandoned shopping mall and then she just fades to nothing, and I go, what? Is it science fiction? And then I was okay, it's they were just explaining what happened to that girl, but it was done in such a subtle way. It was very classic British.
Yes, very BBC.
Yeah. Okay, if nobody else, I just want to jump into any plot twists for this one that everybody enjoyed. You can jump in if you've got one.
Well, I thought it was kind of a twist, Jadine. It was your best scene, but I thought it was kind of a twist, and it surprised me a little that he just blurted out at the press conference, and all of us, okay, he's going to be that kind of a guy, and that for me was the twist that kind of set the tone.
Yeah, what kind of character he is.
Yeah.
My twist is his maid / counselor. I don't know who this person is. Who does a little download with him at the end of his day, takes money out of his wallet, and talks to him about if he acted like a human being and if he asked nice things of people and he tried to relate and understand, and then said, okay, give me your wallet and I'll see you later. And it was like, who the fuck is this person?
I want to know more about her.
I'm really fascinated. It's like his live-in counselor maid. I don't know. I did this. I did the dishes, and I'll see you later.
Yeah. Well, I think
it's like,
Well, I think
who do you think
for him,
she is?
Well, I think that is his helper in the sense that either she's assigned to him because he is considered clinically whatever, or he just needs somebody to deal with the stuff that he doesn't have time to deal with, because he's so focused on whatever his reality is at that point. Stuff like dishes and cleaning and that's doesn't exist in his universe, like money and wallet and stuff like that. So that was, for me, it was a very interesting indication of character. But also it reminded me very much, once again, of Monk, where he has the assistant that's running around with his issues.
That's true. Yes,
exactly.
Yes.
This is the person that deals with the reality for me, because I don't need to deal with it. I'm doing my thing. Except it's a little different in this case. And I'm curious to see if she's going to be used, if she gets involved in actual scenes where the police are involved, or it's just going to be him interacting with her when he comes home. So I'm curious to see if we're going to
throw something in around that comment, though. It's a really kind of interesting thing to me, because if you've ever met anyone who's like this hyper-logical type, I'm sure this character has recognized that he's not very good with human beings and he needs someone to assist him with the understanding of the world. And I am sure that we're going to find out that he hired this woman to be his human. You know what I mean?
His conscience.
Could you please make me human?
Interpreter,
You know, I've got it right down here. I want to check it off. Here are my list of things to get done today. Is be more human, and this is your job.
But I think the most important question is she real?
Ooh, that's interesting.
I don't know if it's that deep of a show.
I suspect because this is a mini-series, they're not going to really develop her that way.
Yeah, there's just 4 parts to this, and they just finished playing the last part.
It's going to be awesome. Best character development? For me, I felt that most people were already pretty damn developed, and there's not a lot of room for development. I'm curious to see if something's going to happen.
I think it's more of the setup with what's going on with the story. I think there's, some interesting threads with what's going on. But in terms of character development, we're not seeing anything in this first episode. We're not seeing a lot of changes or a lot of differences. It's 43 minutes, and they keep it moving pretty quickly. I do love Alex Kingston's character. I think she's amazing, and the relationship she has with her son, who really loves to be kind of a criminal analyst, which is really interesting.
What happens with that too?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because the other show we did is Walter, and the cop has a daughter who's the same way in that show, which is really. I think they're just all copying each other's scripts or something. But out of that, I think probably the biggest emotional journey is probably with Alex's character.
Although I do like the way Stone, the DS Stone, the main character, I really like the way he's kind of attacking this character, and I think he could only get better at capturing how awkward this person is.
Even the way he walks, the way he captures the way this guy walks.
Rain Man. A Rain Man sort of character, and he's just doesn't know what to do and where to look, and he just needs give me a clue here. What am I supposed to say? And he's almost Rain Man, but he has a little more control.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump quickly to best line. No best lines. That was a tough one.
There was a couple of good best lines, I thought.
All right, what's one?
There was two. One was sorry. Sorry. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Oh, no, I'm just thinking. I'm thinking through them. I think I have one, but go ahead.
There was the one where Ruth Hattersley, Alex Kingston, was talking to her son when she just realized that all of this stuff is available for him to see, and she asks him about it, but she can't really, shut it all down for him. So she has to realize that, hold on a second, I don't want to be one of those mothers who finds out too late how lost you were. So she wanted to leave the door open for him so that he would come to her if there was something, at the same time as knowing that there was nothing more that she could do to protect him from those things.
Yeah, but then I like my favorite line was his answer, and it's basically, "Mom, you will always know how lost I am."
Yeah.
I thought it was like, you're just so far behind, honey.
Kind of wild, yeah. It's like, I love that. That's pretty good.
The other line I liked was when Ruth said to D.S. Stone, "That's what people do when they work together. They communicate." And his response was, "Let's talk about that later."
Mine was when they go visit the young girl's parents, and the last thing he asks her is, did she have bad breath? And they burst out the door, and the one cop is like, "What the hell was that, D.S. Stone?" And then Ruth comes in with, "Do you have any idea how they're feeling?" "No." And he gets in the car, and that's it. Like, no, I don't. Like, that's. And you're like, what the fuck?
Catch up with the plot.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay.
There's something there. I think I behaved as I normally do.
That was a good round.
Yeah.
My line was when he was talking to the handler, and he just looks at her with this blank expression. Did you talk? And she asks, did you talk to her about? And he just said, I said, have you got a husband? That was right, wasn't it? like there's absolutely no clue. No clue.
And then they do a second one later on where he says, "Oh, remember that line where I asked you about husband?
Yeah.
I'm not attracted
to you."
It's like, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some good lines that guy's got.
Yeah.
So let's move along here. Would you watch this series, and what was your score? Let's start with Stephanie.
Let's see. I had this one actually at a 2.9. That's what I had for it.
All right.
What I watched again, I'm kind of back and forth. The lines were really, really good on it, but I found it was really slow, and maybe that's because I'm not that used to watching the BBC stuff. So it wouldn't draw me back to seeing a second episode.
Interesting. Okay, Ken?
Actually, I'm finding more and more that it's not the plot lines and the stories are important, but for the most part, it's the chemistry and the blend of the actors and how they work with each other that really gets the strength of a show. And I like this one, so I gave it a 4.2.
All right, excellent.
It was my favorite show of the series of the run of these.
Oh, nice.
Oh, very nice. Okay.
Yeah, I'm surprised actually how much I liked it. I really agree with you, Ken, because police procedurals are so, there's so many of them. I'm so tired of them. It's hard to watch just because like, oh great, another police procedural, yay. But as soon as you get interesting chemistry, interesting actors, and interesting circumstances, then it's like, okay, so what are the levels, what's going on? And just the general idea of saying, hey guys, missing person cases, let's have a look at those. And to me, what I really connected with is like, I wish some of this police changes in police behavior, in the way that they look at things and the way they do things. It's not always just going to be the husband or the wife that's the killer. It doesn't always have to be that way, that we have to look at things differently. And it really connected to me with, the missing women cases in BC, where if they had spent the time 10, 15, 20 years ago to look at these cases as more than a missing prostitute, how many lives could be spared, and how many lives could be not shattered or destroyed because of those things. And here's a simple guy in terms of how guided and direct he is, saying, yeah, pattern, no pattern. This is a change in pattern. Something weird is going on. Let's go into it. And how he won't take second, like he pushes that whole show. That character just pushes through everybody in order to try and save somebody's life and try to solve the problem. And I really like that.
So you're not going to be watching the series, is what you're telling us?
Yeah, I love it. I'm going to watch it. I give it a 4.1.
I will say though,
I'm terrible. Don't listen.
A clue into the future of Alex Kingston and Sherman's or D.S. Stone. That relationship is she comes back to him and says, "Oh, by the way, a serial killer is this, and a multiple killer is this." And she just parents her son, and
what she did
and both an umbrella term.
Yeah, she did do it both ways.
She paired it to her son, what he said, what D.S. Stone said earlier, and then she paired it back. It was awesome.
And she froze him too. I don't think he said anything.
Yeah.
Tony, what do you got to say?
I think I kind of feel the same way about police procedurals in general. I think, though, that this being a miniseries, it's not really stricken by the same problems. I think this could be a separate and distinct story about these people, these characters, this problem to be solved.
4 hours.
So for me, being that it's a miniseries, I'm definitely going to want to watch the rest of it. I think it's worth my time. I gave it an overall score of 4.
Cool. For me, yes, I thought it was great, and I really thought it was well done because at the end, the last scene, it's like, oh, well, I got to watch the next one. I really wanted to and I didn't have it. So it's definitely a bingeable if you have the whole 4 series for sure, and I give it a 4. And now let's just quickly jump in because just to let you guys know, we're 2 hours and 9 minutes into the show. So we're going to jump into Walter, another police procedural. Another
kinda.
Yeah. And
what is this? What do you classify this as?
Well, I think it was a comedy, but a British comedy, and very interesting. So let's just start with best scene, and what would you? Let's start off with Tony.
Oh, best scene was I think was the one where the daughter was reading back. I didn't even write this down, but the daughter was reading back that this wasn't a coincidence, and at some point he says, "Well, it must have been the school that I sent you to." I kind of like that dynamic he had with his daughter.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, J.D.
To me, there's quite a few good best scenes. What I really like what they did about this, and again, it's another cop show, another procedural. It's called Walter. It's on ITV. It was 55 minutes, this first episode. Same thing. I think it's how many episodes is this? Walter. I think it's a short series. I'll find out.
If it's British, it'll be 3 to 4. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a shorter series. You're wrong, pardon me. And what I liked was all the home scenes. So all this stuff would happen while they're at the police station, they're doing the investigation, and every set of characters has a home scene. So you have the young girl is going home, and she's speaking, I think it's Gaelic, and she's hitting the boxing bag, explaining to her mom how her day was. It's fantastic. And then they jump to the cop and his daughter is basically thinking through the case for him, taking notes and doing all sorts of stuff. And that actress, she's amazing. She's an amazing actor. She did a great job. Very strong and powerful, and she was great. And then the police, the captain is with his partner, and they're in bed and brushing his teeth and talking about how hard his day was and having a fight over chocolates. And they were just so normal, regular people. I really liked that part of it. I kind of just wish it wasn't a police procedural, but whatever. But to me, it's all those little scenes. Those were really kind of cool.
Ken?
No. I did. I liked the whole show. I mean, I couldn't even. I didn't even want to pick a best scene. I really like the girl cop, the Welsh girl. I love the accent.
Welsh. Thank you.
Yeah, and what she was going through. I mean, she went through so many different sort of things during the show, and looking at the guy and the amorous advances she wanted to rip his clothes off, and then getting on the motorcycle. I loved that she was on a motorcycle. I thought that was great too. There was a lot of very strong stuff in this comedy, and it was a comedy, but interspersed with all this other drama, and I really enjoyed it.
Nice.
Steffi?
I'm realizing now that I'm thinking about another show. So I was mixing this one up with the Weatherman show.
Okay.
The what?
Yeah, I have nothing.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
That's all right.
I can't remember it.
Nice.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed the show because a lot of the lines, they were about 10 incredibly funny, pointed, very British lines in there, and nobody reacted to them. It was just slapped in there between two sentences, and if you weren't concentrating, you would miss them. And it's the type of show you could watch a second time and say, "Oh my God, that's a hilarious line."
Yeah.
So I thought it was very clever that way, and I find it's an interesting show because it's a mix between a serious police procedural and a very funny comedy like Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So it's taken like Brooklyn Nine-Nine and connected it with The Wire or something like that. I mean, just two ridiculous combinations, and that's the funny part about the show. So it's being engineered to be funny, but in a very sophisticated way. So as far as I would say, there are so many best scenes in the show, but they're wafer thin. They're wafer thin. They happen in a split second, then they're gone. So I thought it was a very sophisticated show that way. So let's go back to worst and most confusing scene for anybody. Was there anything that jumped out for you guys?
Mine's an overall thing. It is the tone of it. I got a little confused in terms of whether it was trying to be a comedy or whether it was trying to be serious. It's very obvious it's a comedy. It's kind of slapsticky in a little bit in how fast the rapid-paced jokes are going here, 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 and here. But at the same time, there's a really interesting story being told about, a cop who goes undercover and is gone missing because the guy who was managing him, who was his handler, dies, and so nobody knows where this undercover cop is, and that's what they're investigating. So you got a very straight cop story, but man, there was not a scene where there wasn't a joke, a prank, a knocking over something, a tripping on something, spilling coffee. It was weird. It was this weird hijinksy kind of zany comedy, but nobody played for laughs. It was all deadpan.
And they didn't wait for the laugh. They just kept going.
No, it's like a Barney Miller to me. It's like half serious, half comedy, without a laugh track. So because why would you want that? But but yeah, so the tone is a little off for me. I liked it, but the tone is a bit weird.
Huh. Okay. Tony.
For the worst and most confusing scene for me, it was just sort of the following or the way they paced the story when he got the text message, when Walter got the text message, time's up, Hardy wanted the money. And they went from there to him talking to his daughter. It was like, oh, he just when he received that text message, he had to book off early. He took off because he had to take care of something, but then the next scene was like, hold on a second, there's something that was supposed to have been told, but it's not being told, and now he's talking to his daughter. I found that disjointed.
Yeah, I just felt that whole subplot of him owing the money was like, well, what did he need the money for? Is he got a gambling problem? I couldn't even remember what.
That had to be there.
I think it was a lead up to the ending.
Yeah,
so that at the end they needed to set that up because I think down the road they're going to deal with that as an issue, him taking that money. Because he's got it hidden in a suitcase under the bed, one of the most obvious places that is going to be found.
Yeah.
And they really shot that suitcase under the bed.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody focuses on something like that unless they're going to deal with it later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about plot twist? Let's jump in there with JD.
Well, the biggest one is really who is the undercover cop. That's kind of the shoe drop that they don't figure out until it's kind of too late. And that's what's really interesting about this is just the general idea that for a success, it's a failure. Like they're not really that successful. I mean, they catch the bad guy, but they lose two cops on the journey. So it's kind of like they're failures. So that's the other thing that I don't get. It's not like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, they have successes and they're goofball losers, but they always kind of win. Here, they won, but they're kind of goofball losers, but they didn't win, and in one scene, because of his gambling problem, that whole gambling thing is a weird plot twist too. It's kind of disjointed for me. He literally tells his daughter, "Yeah, we got to move, and you can't go to your school anymore," and then solves the problem in the next scene by keeping the money.
His daughter is suspicious, though.
Yeah, of course, but it's like I don't like him is the other thing, I guess. I mean, I like her, but I don't like her too because she got too caught up in love for this one guy, going all doughy-eyed every 3 scenes. I don't know. This whole show is a bit disjointed for me. I didn't enjoy it as much as I should, even though it's pretty cleverly written.
Right.
So yeah.
All right, Tony.
Plot twist.
Plot twist. I didn't really see anything that was much of a twist, I guess, other than him taking that money. But I kind of was set up for it.
Yeah.
There wasn't really anything that caught me by surprise in the show.
Yeah, and I'm the same way with JD, and it's the only thing that I felt came close to plot twist was figuring out who the actual suspect was, who the actual bad guy was, and it's like, oh, okay, it's that person, then that makes sense, and then, oh, hang on, it's not. So they did a good job of keeping me confused, because a lot of times that I can see through that, so I definitely give them high points for that. Best line. Oh, go ahead.
I'll just go one quick one on the twist. It's not really a twist. I just thought it was funny the way they did it when the new superintendent is in the bathroom the first time and he's talking and he's brushing his teeth and doing that and he's talking to the partner in the bed, and I figure, oh, okay, this guy's a wimpy guy, so the woman is going to be very strong, possibly very large, and he's going to be totally whipped. And then they pan to the bed and it's a guy. And I thought, oh, okay, what the hell?
He was the woman and he's the woman. Yeah.
Not it's unusual these days. It's just they did it in a different way.
Just looked really bored. I think it's literally like Candy. I think the guy's like in a relationship with eye candy. Like that's like his little boy toy.
Controlling eye
really
candy. Eye candy that tells him he has to brush his teeth after eating the chocolate.
Yeah, after eating the chocolate.
Well, it's like an old married couple. That's what was so funny about it. It's like an old married couple, even though they're not old.
Yeah, they did a good job of that. I thought that was a really great reveal.
They just kind of threw that in there, and it just kind of threw. Wow, yeah, okay, that's good.
What about character development? Anybody? I felt everybody was pretty well developed. I don't see a lot of room for character development there.
It's everybody in general. It's like bumbling yet successful. Like. They kind of locked their way
for the
into
most
everything.
part successful.
Yeah, let's see how that. Well, I mean, that goes back to like Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's like nobody develops in that show either, right? Because everybody's set, they got their lines, and it works. So it's a good formula. Let's talk about best line. What was anybody have a great line?
I'm going to jump in real quick. I liked it when they're in the car and Annie turned to him and said, "You really do look like you wet yourself."
Oh my God, that was my line too. I knew you wanted to jump in.
I didn't know it was that your line. I just thought that was a very funny line.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else got a good line?
When he was talking to his superintendent on the phone, bringing him up to date on the case, and he says, "How did you find all this out so quickly?" "I'm a detective."
You moron.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to bring up my favorite character, and that's Snack Cop.
He was awesome.
Is in the evidence room.
His name's Slim.
Very
Slim.
Snack Cop.
Slim.
I love Snack Cop with his Diet Cokes and everything.
Yeah.
He's the worst, most offensive stuff, and for some reason I like it. So it's like, he's like, do you know anybody in these photos? And he goes, "No, but you can send the blonde one round, though." And then another one, as soon as she walks in, "Looking good, DC Hopkins." And she literally says "ugh," but in such a she goes, it's like she almost, like she's so disgusted, and she says, "You're lucky. There's a grill between us." And he says, "Not from where I'm standing." and I love it. He's wonderful. One man's rubbish is another man's Coco Van.
Yeah.
He says it
Walter has a good line for him too. "Ever the charmer, are you, Slim? By the way, it's good to see you drinking the diet stuff with the cheesy what's-its. That'll really make a difference."
It totally shuts him down. But I love those scenes. He's great.
Yeah.
Good old Snack Cop. Love him.
Awesome. No, I forgot
Stephanie?
that. No,
No,
she denies
no.
it all.
Oh, she's muted.
All right. So,
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he didn't.
So, would you guys watch this series, and what would the score be? Let's start with Tony.
I probably might watch it again. I wouldn't place it high, but I gave it a 3.6.
Mm-hmm. All right. Jadine?
Maybe not. Like, if I forget about it, I'd probably be fine. I give it a 3.2. It's mildly entertaining. I do like the lead actor. She is in a great show called Utopia, and if you haven't seen Utopia, you need to check it out.
There's 3 Utopias out there now.
Wow.
Oh, this one is the dark, scary graphic novel one, and it is really good and dark and horrible and really well done. I like it. It's great. It's basically about people taking over the world, so it's nice.
Ken?
But she does a great job. But 3.2, meh.
3.2. Okay, Ken?
I'd watch it. And like I said, this was my second favorite, and I gave it a 4.
All right, excellent. I gave it a 3.7, and yes, and I felt that after watching more than one or two of them, it might go downhill fast. It's like, I'm kind of bored of this because it would become repetitive, become like a procedural. So, but for the first one, I enjoyed it, and I get a 3.7. So then I want to open up the lines to everybody and ask them, out of all the shows, what was your favorite show that you would like to tell people to watch? And let's start with Tony.
Whoa. Out of all of these?
Yeah, out of all the shows, which is the one that you like the most?
Oh, for me, that was easy. The Hand of God. I was very much into that.
Okay, Hand of God. So check out Hand of God if you're on Tony's side. Jadine?
For me, second place is Hand of God, which I think everybody should check out anyways. But number one is Our Zoo. Our Zoo is well written, well executed, well acted, and a very heartwarming and troubling story. And it's a neat adventure to go on. It's a good family show too.
Cool. Andrew, I would have to guess Gotham because you only watched one.
Yeah, but listening to you guys talk, maybe I'll check out the other ones.
Yeah, I think you'd really like Our Zoo. And let's give Stephanie a go at it.
Did you say skip Stephanie?
No.
Skip over to Stephanie. Let's skip Stephanie.
Go, Steph, go.
They're hard for hearing Stephanie.
No, of the ones that we talked about today, I would definitely say Our Zoo.
Our Zoo has been there. Okay, great. And Ken?
Definitely Cosmopolitan. No.
Well done.
That's the one to absolutely. No, my favorite. My favorite was Chasing Shadows.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay, nice.
I like that one.
Yeah, for me it was a toss-up between the Chasing Shadows and Our Zoo, but Our Zoo won out at the end. So I would say for this pilot show, Our Zoo is the winner. And if you want another second good one to check out, I would be Chasing Shadows. And for us,
there was a couple of Hand of Gods in there.
Yeah, Hand of Gods as well. But definitely, don't waste your time with the Cosmopolitans. Definitely.
Let's never speak of it again.
Yes. Exactly.
I've deleted the file.
So thank you everybody for coming on the show. This is a record show. It's 2 hours and 26 minutes we did.
Wow.
I think some amazing content and some really, really good shows to definitely check out. And I'm just going to throw it over to Jadine to wrap up the show. So for me here at the Crazy TV Talk Studios, it is au revoir from Bob.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you, Andrew, for coming on and talking with us about Gotham, and I hope you get a chance to check out these other shows. Thank you, Tony. I love your insights, and I love you fighting for Hand of God. It's crazy and weird, and I like it too. Thank you, Ken, for... You were the bad guy on this show. If everybody every one of his ratings are the lowest ratings, I think, out of everybody. Thanks, bad guy, Ken. I appreciate it. Steph, thank you so much for your insight. As always, you do amazing stuff. We love having you on. And thanks to everybody who's listening. Thanks, Gil. Thanks for all your great questions. Really appreciate it. And check out Gil's podcast if you haven't, which is Beercraft Nation. Check out Bob and Andrew's podcast if you haven't. And that's the Bunker Show, Bunker Project. Check out those guys. And iTunes, Stitcher, rate us. Review us. Tell us we suck. We love it. Go make a great day, folks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, that's awesome, dudes. Let me just shut this baby down.
Yeah.
I can find my cursor here. Oh, I cannot.